In this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to build, deploy, and scale professional-grade voice AI agents in 2025 using Retail AI. And by the end of this 3+ hour masterclass, you'll have everything you need to go ahead and launch voice AI agents that sound natural, integrate seamlessly with any business and any connection, and is ready for real-world business use. So in this course, we're going to be diving deep into Retail AI, covering everything from advanced features and agent settings to integrations with tools like N8N, Meg.com, deployment strategies, and also building real-world voice AI agents in practice using Retail AI. So whether you're a complete beginner in voice AI agents and looking to learn, or you're a business owner and wanting to utilize it inside your business, then this course is going to be for you. And make sure to stick around to the end, because not only will you gain the very valuable skill on learning these voice AI agents into a business-ready tool, but I'm also going to be giving away all the free resources that I've used inside this courses, such as the templates, the workflows, the agent templates, everything that I've used completely for free, so you can go ahead and get started as quick as possible. So without further ado, let's get into a quick overview of the course, and then we're going to dive straight into building our first voice AI agent from scratch using Retail AI. Okay, and before we dive into the complete masterclass and the complete course, I just want to give you a quick rundown on what we're actually going to be covering and how it's structured. So essentially, I've structured this course to take you from number one, knowing nothing, absolutely nothing about voice AI agents, all the way to complete pro. That's essentially the short rundown of it. So again, we're going to be covering simple agents. So again, the general overview of agents, how they work, and then also the single prompt approach. Number two right here is going to have a dedicated section for prompting. So again, it's really important to understand how to prompt agents. And this is going to be specifically for voice agents, right? And then from there, we have advanced agents and agent settings. So again, covering advanced agents and actually the difference between simple and advanced agents and how to structure them as well. And then we have knowledge base and functions and dynamic variables. So again, how to attach knowledge to your AI agent so it can grab that knowledge, answer any questions that the customer may have. Functions and dynamic variables, again, how to customize your prompt, input customized information into your prompt, and then also how to also customize functions to also go to any automation platforms and make any API lookups, right? And then from there, we have section 7, which is integrations and automations. So how to actually integrate it within softwares, how to integrate it within different automation platforms as well. And then finally, we're going to actually be building real agents in practice. So I'm going to be taking you through 2 real world agent builds that you can go ahead and build, which is going to be an inbound agent and then also an outbound agent as well, right? And then from here, we have deployment and monitoring and scaling. So I'm going to be showing you how to connect phone numbers, what that process actually looks like, and actually how to do it so your agent can be deployed into real world scenarios by phone numbers. And then from there, I'm going to be covering how to monitor and scale your agents using live monitoring, analytics, billing, optimization, and performance fine tuning. So again, let's get into the first section, which is going to be simple agents. Okay, and before we even dive into actually creating these agents and going into single prompt, simple agents, we actually need to understand how voice AI works and the technology behind it. So again, I'm just going to be breaking down actually what is happening in the processes, what's going to be happening in the background. Again, it's really important to you to understand the basics and what's happening, and then we can go ahead and dive into how it actually works. So again, let's get into it. So first of all, this is a little graph of how voice agents actually work. Essentially, the entire, summary, entire rundown is this is what's happening behind the voice agents, and these platforms allow us to package all of these things together. So for example, it all starts when someone calls the phone number, and usually our phone number is connected via Twilio. And I've got a dedicated section later on in this course that actually explains what this process is, what it means, and how to attach numbers to your agent. But essentially, it all starts when someone calls that phone number. It then captures the user's input. Again, please remember that these platforms package all of these things in. So again, either Retail is going to capture the user's input. And then from there, we're going to go into automatic speech recognition, which is ASR, right? That's usually done by a transcription model. And then from there, we have OpenAI, right? OpenAI is going to act as our NLP processing. So again, this is going to be the LLM attached behind our voice agent. And then from there, this is where our prompt comes into play. So again, after the voice agent has completed this process, it'll then look at our prompt and make an appropriate decision based on that prompt. For example, if the user says, "Hello, what is your availability for tomorrow?" This is where our prompt will come into play. And then from there, after our prompt, it'll essentially help this decision-making and task execution process here. So again, if it was checking availability, it'll then know to call an API or a function. But if it wasn't, it'll just generate a natural response based on its prompt, right? So again, that's just a simple overview on how these voice agents work. So this prompt is really important because it helps the AI make its decision-making and task execution, right? And then from there, this is where our automation platform, will come in, right? So essentially, After the AI has determined if it is a function or API execution, it'll then go down to our automation platforms right here. So again, we've got Make, N8N, and Zapier, right? For example, let's say they want to check availability. It'll then make a tool call function or an API execution to these platforms, which is going to be our no-code, low-code platforms such as N8N and Make. And then from there, these platforms allow us to connect to the business's calendar right here, right? So again, this is essentially how we package everything together, right? This will allow us to connect to the business's calendar, profile, pipeline and staff management systems, CRMs, etc. Right. So again, that's how this section works inside this voice AI. And then from there, it'll generate a natural response using the LLM or OpenAI. And then from there, this is where it'll use the TTS model, which is known as the 11 Labs most commonly. And then from there, it'll just simply respond back to the user and it'll just conduct the continuous improvement cycle from there. So again, that's just a quick breakdown of how these agents work. And platforms like Retail, Vapi, and 11 Labs allow us to package this entire process into one software, right? And then our automation platforms are used to connect to the voice AI platform. And all that it's doing in here is it's connecting to the CRMs, it's connecting to the business calendar, and it can process automations from there. So that's just a quick overview of how voice AI agents actually work. Again, automation platforms allow us to connect the automations to the voice agent. This can be used to process bookings, check availability, and really do anything within the business's existing systems. The whole point of these platforms is to use no-code automation to connect to the business system. So again, you kind of get it. So yeah, now let's go into actually how to design a simple agent and what that actually means as well. Okay, and welcome to the first section. This is where we're going to be going through simple prompt agents and actually how they work. So again, I'm going to be covering what these agents actually are, and also I'm going to be referring back to this little chart right here so you can actually understand everything and see how it's packaged into these platforms right here. So let's get straight into it. So first of all, I'm going to be using Retail throughout this entire masterclass. I think it's one of the best voice AI platforms to go ahead and start building your voice AI agents. But that's just my opinion, of course. They're all relatively the same. But yeah, let's get right into it. So again, we're in Retail right here. Again, I'm going to be covering all of these different features, everything within inside Retail, so you can actually understand how to go from beginner to pro. But let's get right into it. So first of all that a simple agent really means is just one prompt for me, right? So again, if we come into Retail right here, we come up to create agent, right? We have all of these different agent types, right? We've got conversational flow agents, multi-prompt agents, and custom LLM agents as well. So all that a single simple prompt agent means is just this little section right here, which is just one singular prompt, right? So if you go actually into create that, if you do want to go ahead and try it, this is what it's going to look like, right? So essentially, this is the dashboard that we have with Retail, and it allows us to customize our voice AI agent, right? So again, that's all the things that it has right here. Again, I'm just going to be going into the necessary settings that you need to understand before we dive into more of the advanced settings. So again, up here we have the name. This is just the name of your agent. Again, pretty straightforward. And then from here we have the agent ID. So this is the agent ID specific to your Retail AI agent. This is very useful when we're working in different automation platforms, making any outbound API calls to specify what what agent to contact with inside Retail. So again, this agent ID is specific to this agent we just created. And then from here, we have the Retail LLM ID. So again, this is going to be the LLM specific to this voice AI agent inside Retail. So again, that's just very similar like the agent ID. And then from here, this is how we have the minutes. Now, these minute costs are essentially, if we come back to the chart, they make up various different things. So how the voice AI platforms costs actually work is one, Retail or Vapi or whatever platform you're using. We're using Vapi throughout this entire, Retail throughout this entire masterclass. Essentially how it's broken down is the voice AI platforms have their set costs, right? So it might be 4 cents per minute, right? And then we also have the LLM costs, right? And then the TTS costs. So if we come back here, this is so you can see how this is actually packaged together. So we've got the LLM cost right here, and then we've got the TTS costs, and then we've got the LLM cost right here. So essentially that's how it's breaking down. So essentially how these voice agents work is it's billed per minute or cents per minute, right? So you can see if we actually go ahead and change these models, right? You can see that the time will change. For example, let's use Claude. And you can see that those minutes are now changing, right? Again, if we change it on the different voice providers, right? If we come down to Cartesia or whatever, right? These things are going to change because the voice providers and the LLM providers are changing, right? So again, if we do Cartesia, let's just say we use this voice, and you can see it's going to change with the minutes, right? So again, that's essentially how the pricing is broken up into our voice AI agent. It's very dependent on the LLM and the voice mostly, and then the voice AI platform will have its set costs as well. That's essentially how everything works. And then from here, we have the latency, right? The latency is very much similar on how it's influenced, right? Depending on the type of API services and the LLM and the voice you're using, the latency is going to vary. But essentially, what the latency means is it's just how long it takes for the AI agent to respond once you have spoken into it. So again, it's about 820 or 1,000 milliseconds, right? Which is just over a second, right? Again, if we actually come in here and we go to, let's say, GPT-5, right? You can see that'll go ahead and change, right? So again, this is very dependent on the LLM, the TTS, and then also what we call a transcription model, which is essentially, if we come back here, just transcribing the user's input as well, right? That's essentially how the price in latency is broken down. And then inside retail, we have the tokens. So again, these are the tokens that will occur inside the LLM generation. So again, I don't really need to go too much in depth to it, but you can see we have the LLM token-based pricing. So how it works is these LLMs generate usage by tokens. So again, these tokens are just another way for pricing, right? As you can see, this is going to be our token usage for OpenAI and etc. Right? So that's all of these settings up here. And then down here, we have the LLM customization. Now, in retail, you can customize the LLM for a range of different purposes. I would recommend going with GPT 4.1, but again, you can customize a range of different LLMs. And what is most important to understand about this is you will use different LLMs for different types of voice agents. For example, you might want a voice agent that is more heavily, in reasoning, right? So you might use the new GPT-5, or you might use Claude, right? So you will choose an LLM specific for the task of your voice AI agent. Now, 80 to 90% of my LLMs are probably GPT 4.1. I think that's the most efficient model in terms of pricing. But again, you can change and customize the LLM based on the type of agent it is. And then from here, we have the settings. So again, this is the LLM temperature. So you can actually structure your LLM temperature. So again, if you have it up lower, it's going to yield better function call results. And then you can also switch it to structured output, which is going to be in JSON schema. But we don't really want that. We just want it in text. So again, you can adjust the LLM temperature. The higher it is, the more creative it will be. And then the lower it is, the more strict it will be for its prompts. So again, this essentially, hence why it's saying better function call results right here. Okay, and now the next section, which is going to be the voice. This is where you can customize your entire voice inside Vappy. So again, they've got three main voice providers. They've got 11 Labs, Cartesia, and OpenAI. Again, I would recommend using 11 Labs. I use 11 Labs for all my voices. But again, you can actually go ahead and search for what type of voice you are provided with. So again, where this is specific for business use is, for example, if you had an agent in America or England, you would go ahead and search for a voice for that type of region, right? So for example, I'm in Australia, so I can go down here and you can do type. So yeah, again, you can just search for the accent what you want. But again, if you're in America, you can go America, and then if you're in Britain, you can do Britain. So you get the entire point. You can also do gender and types, and then you can also do custom as well. So again, you can add a custom voice and enter the voice name as well. And then what you can also do is you can actually go ahead and import a custom voice into 11 Labs. So you can actually search the name. Let's do like, for example, you can search for whatever name you want, right? So again, these are all custom voices within inside 11 Labs library. So again, these are just the basic voices that they have inside retail, and then you can also search it up as well, right? So again, this is just the customizations for the voices. We've got Cartesia and we've got OpenAI, but I would recommend doing 11 Labs. You can add custom voices, and then you can also filter by example right there. Awesome. And this is where you can adjust the voice model of your agent. So again, I'm using 11 Labs, but you can see they've got all these different types of customizability options within inside the agent. So we have, auto, which is just English only, fast, high quality. You've got, 11 Labs Turbo V2, 2.5. But again, you can customize this based on your agent. Now, the real world use case here is that you can put it into multilingual or English only. Again, if you're using an agent that spoke, various amounts of languages, you need to switch it to multilingual right here. So this is where you can customize the voice model. And then from here, we have the customizations in terms of the voice's speed, the temperature, and the volume. So again, if the temperature is up higher, it's going to be more emotional in its responses, right? If the voice volume is up higher, it's going to be higher. And then if the voice volume is down lower, it's going to be lower, right? And then this is where we have the voice speed. So if you have it up faster, the voice is going to be more quick to speak. And then if you have it down slower. So you can kind of see, if you are building this for real world clients who are just trying to understand, you can kind of see how much customization we can add to these voice AI agents to suit the business's need or to suit the specific use case of the agent. Awesome. And then from here, this is where we have the languages. So you can adjust the main languages that your agent is speaking. So for example, we've got English, and then you've also got, You've also got different types of English. So again, we've got Australian English, New Zealand accents, we've got Portuguese, we've got Brazilian dialect, we've got European dialect. We've got all these different languages that you can have. As you can see, there's heaps of languages that your voice AI agent can speak. But if you wanted to do multilingual, all you have to do is select this multilingual function and then simply come up to here and do 11 Labs Turbo 2.5 multilingual. So again, that's how you can customize the voices, but I'll just leave it in English. All right, and then next we have the prompt. So again, this is just a simple agent. This just has one prompt. This is going to be the universal prompt that the AI is going to be referring to, or the LLM is going to be referring to when it's generating its responses. So this is an example of what a prompt would look like. It's just one prompt, and this is the main structure of it, right? We've got the role, which is defining the role of the agent. So we can see this was an example for a med spa clinic. We've got its name. We've got how its persona should be, how it should talk inside the business. A little bit of context about the business, a luxury med spa specializing in facials, therapy, and laser treatments. And then we've also got a little bit of context, right? So you were the first point of contact for the clients calling it, and your goal is to make every client feel welcome. So this is just a little bit of context and defining the agent's role in its conversation. Then from here, we have the task. So again, this is what we call, by the way, if you're wondering what this thing is called, it's called markdown prompting. I will cover it later in the course, but that's essentially what those hashtags mean right there. All right. And then from here, this is where we have the task. So this is going to be the task of our AI agent. Right here, we have your primary task is to efficiently schedule new appointments for clients seeking med spa services. We've got number 1, greeting and inquiry. Greet the caller warmly, professionally, and creating the first welcoming impression. So this is what we call chain of thought prompting. Again, I've got a dedicated section in the next module, which goes through about actually how to structure your prompts. But again, I'm just going to be covering the very basics of actually how a single simple prompt agent is working. So again, this is the task. We've got step 1, initial greeting inquiry, and then step-by-step structuring what the agent should do in that step. And then step 2, appointment scheduling. This is where we'll make those API calls. So if we come back to our chart right here, and this prompt is helping the agent make its calls to our automation platforms right here, right? So it's helping making this connection right there. So again, that's where we're referencing the tool calls, and that's how the agent is actually able to make those tool calls right there. And then we've got confirmation and closing, so what to do when the agent is confirming and closing the appointment. We've got an example conversation. This is very important to give context about what is happening, or an example of a previous conversation that could be made up, and then also how to let the agent know when to call those tools as well right here. And we've got a little bit of context about the business. So again, doing what we call context dumping, just dumping a little bit of context about the business, what it does, etc. As you can see, we're using a dynamic variable right here, which is what I'll go into a little bit later. And then we've got conversation guidelines. So again, that's just a quick overview on what a single simple prompt agent looks like right there. So again, we can go ahead and click save. But I will have a dedicated section into this next section in the next module that you can actually go ahead and look at. Okay, now we've got down here, which is the welcome message. So again, this is essentially customizing how the agent should speak, right? So we have 2 options here. We've got user speaks first. This can be good for outbound calls. When AI is making outbound calls, it's usually expected that the person is going to pick up and speak first. And then we've got AI speaks first. So within this section, we can either have a dynamic message. This dynamic message is going to be generated by AI, so it's going to be different every time, right? So depending on the prompt, it'll generate it. And then we have a custom message right here. So again, I would recommend this for inbound agents specifically. This is a custom message that can be said every single time the customer calls the phone. So you can also customize it. And then from there, this is where we have all our customizability options, such as functions, knowledge bases, transcription settings. But I'm going to be getting a little bit more in depth to that later in the video. So yeah, that's essentially a quick rundown on actually how voice agents work, and then the platforms in retail, and actually what a single simple prompt example looks like with the prompt, and then all the customization options. So now let's jump into the next important section, which is going to be prompting for our voice AI agent. So if we look back here, we're going to be jumping into prompting right now. So I'll see you there. This is going to be the guide. I'm going to be running you through the exact formula I use to prompt all my AI agents. So let's get right into it. So first of all, the first thing that we need to do is define the role for the voice AI agent. Now, this is very important. So the role prompting assigns your voice AI agent to a specific industry during conversations. This helps the agent embody a character and improves performance in voice interaction. So of course, this is going to be the first thing that the LLM is reading when you are putting this into your prompt. So again, this is really important to not only be concise, but also make sure that you are prompting it for that business. You need to prompt the agent and its characteristics throughout the conversation, because this is going to define how the AI agent speaks within the conversation. So obviously, if you were doing it for, maybe a customer service agent, you would say you are a highly skilled and empathetic customer service agent. Now, what are customer service agents? They're knowledgeable, right? They are polite. So again, we're prompting the AI agent in its role to be empathetic, right? You need to speak clearly, listen actively, and maintain a professional tone. So again, depending on the business's industry that you are doing, you need to prompt your AI agent and its role within that type of section, right? So for example, this voice AI agent is, an empathetic customer voice agent, and in the role, we've told it that. So this is going to be, resolving complex issues through natural conversation. And we've also defined its persona by speaking clearly and actively listening. So exactly just like it's supposed to inside the business. So again, this is really important. Now, just some research results on this is voice clarity improved over 15% with a role assignment, and then customer satisfaction increased by 20 to 30%. And overall, the conversation flow became more natural. So some of the key takeaways here is you need to make sure you choose a voice persona that matches your, service context. So just like I mentioned above, and also add descriptive qualities to enhance the agent's communication style, and then focus on voice-specific traits like tone, pacing, and empathy. So again, this is really important because the voice AI agent is this is going to be one of the first things that it's seeing. And of course, if you do want this slide, you do want, a complete guide on how to prompt these agents and an example guide. I will leave everything that I've used, all the free resources down below in the description, so you can go ahead and grab it. So again, this right here is going to be the highlighted section inside our prompt. So you think about how the prompt runs. It goes, the role, task, specifics, all those type of things inside the prompt. So as you can see, this is just a visual representation of kind of what the LLM is seeing. So this is going to be the first thing. And then the next thing is going to be tasks. Now, this is one of the most important things when we are prompting these voice AI agents, because we need to define what our voice AI agent should accomplish. Now, because it's a little bit more complex than these text agents or SMS agents, this is where we're going to be referencing some of the tools. So the task component describes what you want your voice AI agent to achieve. So this is really important because we need to let the AI agent know what it needs to achieve in the conversation, whether that's booking appointments, handling customer inquiries, a bunch of different things. So here's an example, right? Handle incoming customer calls for appointment scheduling, listen to customer needs, ask clarifying questions about preferred times, services, check availability using tools, and confirm bookings while maintaining a friendly conversational tone. Now, I've just put down here voice AI agent tools. So this is going to be the section where we're going to be referencing the tools for the voice AI agent to call. So in the conversation, it's going to be actively calling all of these tools. So we can also send that data for check availability, book appointments, call transferring, send confirmation. So this is going to be the section that we're going to be using to define, some of those tools and let the agent know when to call the tools as well. So that's going to be, number 2 in our voice AI agent prompt. And I'll show you what an example looks like in that as well. So if we go on to the next slide, it's going to be chain of thought prompting. Now, this is the most important thing, I think, in the prompting by far, because this is going to tell the AI agent how to think. It's going to let the AI agent know what its thought process is. It's going to let the AI agent know when to call specific tools as well, which I'll show you later in kind of the example. But chain of thought prompting really helps our voice AI agent think through the conversational steps. So for example, number 1, so the first thing that the agent's going to do is greet the caller warmly, right? And then we can have a bunch of steps and lists on how to greet the caller, which is what I'll show you soon. Number 2, actively listen, ask qualifying questions, right? And then we could have the qualifying criteria. Number 4, use available tools. So this is how you check availability. This is how you book appointments. So by structuring it in kind of a chain of thought process, we can allow the voice AI agent to effectively conduct its conversation in a very accurate way by using this process right here. So research results on this showed a 5% improvement in all call resolution rates, 85% increase in handling complex multi-step conversations, and a significantly better conversational flow and customer experience. So again, by combining all of these things, this allows us to prompt our voice AI agents effectively. And I thought I'd make a video because this is such an important thing in voice AI agents, and it's why a lot of voice AI agents projects fail as well. So this is going to be the number 3 component right here, and it's also included inside the task section. And I'll show you what an example prompt looks like. But again, the whole purpose of this chain of thought thinking process is to clearly define the step-by-step action that the AI agent needs to take throughout the conversation. So again, this will just really enhance the structure of the conversation and making sure it accomplishes its task as well. So if we go on to the next slide, right here, this is going to be an example of what this actually may look like. So we can see this is an example of another chain of thought thinking, right? We've got step 1, greet the user. Step 2, qualify the lead. Step 3, check availability. Step 4, book appointment. And then step 5, confirm appointment and reassure. So we can see right here, we've used that chain of thought structure. And underneath each of those steps, we've told the AI agent in further detail on how to conduct that step. So as we can see, we're using a bunch of information. We're giving it really concise information and also a little bit of prompt engineering here as well to really let the AI agent know in detail and in context how to conduct each step by step. So this is going to add a whole layer of instructions. So if we just dive into this, step 1 is going to be greeting the user. So greet the lead and confirm the reason you're reaching out. And this right here is the dynamic variable, which is what I'll get into later in the prompts. Use the reason to greet the user in a conversational way. And then here's an example. So, hey, Ashton, this is Emily from Sunrise Legal, just reaching out from the form you submitted about a family law matter. So this is a prompt for an outbound agent that I actually built. And then step 3, qualify the lead. So based on the type, ask specific questions to qualify the lead based on what they do. And then obviously it was too big, this kind of, task to paste in, but essentially I just had a criteria of qualification part. So for example, if it's in this case, family law matter, ask these questions and then qualify if this, right? And then went down, but I just deleted this because it actually couldn't fit in the screen. So again, this is a good example of chain of thought prompting right here. And then step 3, check availability. So once the agent has greeted the user, once it's qualified the lead, it'll then check the availability. So you can see how we're adding, a layer of structure to our voice AI agent prompts. And once you get really good at actually conducting these prompts, that's the ability to create these highly conversational, very valuable voice AI agents. And this is absolutely, a very important skill and a very important step to learn when you're prompting your agents. So we can see check availability here. So I've gone fairly in detail. And essentially how you think this out is all the possible scenarios that can potentially happen in the conversation. And we can prompt engineer that in that specific chain of thought process step to, combat that. So for example, if the lead qualifies, offer to schedule a free solution, ask them for their preferred day and time, and then use the check availability tool. So if we come back here to the tools, this is where we're going to reference these tools underneath the chain of thought specific step right there, right? So we can see for using available tools right here for check availability, that's where we're going to quote the tool. So now when the AI agent realizes that it's in this step from the chain of thought prompting, it's then just going to call this tool to find an open slot. And then ensure when you send the time, follow in ISO 861 format. So again, this is just prompt engineering or making sure that AI sends it in a time that the automation's software can understand. So again, good example of prompt engineering. And then you must ensure this time is always in the future using the current time in Brisbane, Australia. So this is just a dynamic variable, which is what we call it. And I'll get into that later, actually, how we can implement these to personalize our prompts and enhance our prompts, even more on top of this structure. All right. And then from there, we've got a little bit more prompt engineering. So you can see how we can add all these details. We can add these layers to, combat, all the different types of difficulties we could have on the conversation and in the phone. So if their preference is unavailable, run the check availability tool again. If the customer's requested time, or you ask to find a tool, you must run the check availability again. So again, just prompt engineering. If the time's not available, run it again, right? Or if the customer asks you to find general availability, run it again. So it's just some prompt engineering and extra layering, and in these steps. And then book appointment is fairly the same thing. So again, using that chain of thought prompting, once the time is agreed upon, you can ask and finalize the details to make the booking, ask for their full name, the email address if you don't already have it, and then you will confirm their details for the appointment. You must ensure you confirm the appointment time in a natural conversational tone. So you can see, you kind of get what I mean in this prompt. I won't go too much in detail in these last steps, but again, using that chain of thought thinking, mentioning the tools as well, and then adding all of our prompt engineering layers underneath it as well. So again, this is a perfect example of that chain of thought prompt thinking. It's a very, very important part on how to structure the entire conversation of our voice agent. So if we move on to the next thing, it's going to be specific. So right here, we need to define voice interaction guidelines. So again, this is just the extra layering on how we're going to handle the conversation. So the specifics guideline outlines the important voice interaction guidelines and conversational rules. use this list to format to easily add new instructions as you test and improve your voice AI agent. So again, we can add certain, variables in this section to test and handle errors, upon the task. So if the AI agent, for example, if the AI agent, for example, mentions that it's calling a tool, we can add into this section right here. If you're calling a tool, make sure, you don't mention it. Just say one moment while I check that for you, right? So we can add certain layers and guidelines to the voice AI agent to enhance the conversation even more, right? And we can add, confirmation. So always repeat back important details like times, dates, and contact information. So again, using more layers in this section. Error handling, if you mishear something, politely ask for clarification. So we can add all these steps and add all these layerings. And what we actually do in testing, if the conversation is going wrong, this is the spot to actually go ahead and add in those personalized type of specifics right here. So then we've got voice specific guidelines. So keep responses natural, not robotic. Use natural speech patterns. So again, just adding a bunch of layers just to make the prompt more conversational in this sense. So this part's very important also, but it's also a good part to test and improve the agent along the way. So this is a part of testing and optimizing the agent. Next is the context. So this is very important to provide business context and system context. So again, providing context about your business environment and the voice AI agent's role in your system helps improve conversion quality and agent performance. So again, we're just letting the AI agent know what the business is about, some details around the business, why the caller might be calling, what its main intention is doing. And this will just let the AI agent know and just have a little bit more background and context to the caller's query. So for example, for a dental clinic, right, we're giving a little bit of, information about the dental clinic. Our dental practice serves busy professionals who value efficient scheduling when patterns call our main line. You are the first point of contact. So again, letting the AI agent know, that it's the first point of contact in the business. And your role in managing these calls effectively is a crucial patient satisfaction and our practitioners and our practice's reputation. By providing excellent phone service, you will directly contribute to the patient's retention and practice growth. So again, this is just a generated example for a dental clinic, but again, you can put business information here. You can put context on why the caller is calling. For example, maybe you're doing an outbound agent, right? And the agent is actually calling someone. You can give the context to the agent why it's calling it. For example, you are calling a lead that has just submitted a form. You can put that in the context as well to give it some background knowledge and further enhance the prompt as well. And also, by using this exact format in here, this will, really just create the perfect prompt for our voice AI agent. So context elements to include. So obviously business info, call flows, how calls reach the agent, typical caller expectations. So you could even put in here, the caller may be calling because of this, right? The caller may be calling, maybe it's a home service company. The caller may be calling because they want their pipe service fixed or they want their sink fixed. They've got a leaky tap, right? So again, you can give the intentions behind the caller before they've even called based on the general business overview, right? And impact. So why excellent voice service matters to the business. So again, making sure or letting the agent know that its conversations that it's having with the customer is going to affect the retention and it's going to affect the reputation of the business, right? Then you can also add some context around how it's integrating with tools as well. So that'll also help, the tool calling. So again, this is a very, very important thing. And this is why it's highlighted, quite largely here is because, we're giving the agent some context. And you can just do a bunch of context dumping right here and format it in, which is what I'll show you soon. But again, this is a really important part right here. So let's go next. So next is very, very important. So it's going to be example conversation. So this is how we're going to guide the voice AI agent through interactions and real scenarios. So as you can see right here, I've got a little bit of example conversation, which is what I'll dive into. But example conversations serve as an in-context learning for your voice AI agent, showing exactly how conversations should flow and when to use specific tools as well. So there's two main reasons why we do this, right? Is again, we're showing the AI agent how to conduct the conversation without, any, previous context or without the caller actually calling. And then also when to call the tools as well. So again, confirming to the agent what times to call the tools, when in the conversation to call the tools, just to make it really conversational and natural. So for example, we must use the example conversation for our voice AI agent to guide how the conversation should go and also to note to how to perform tasks by referencing the tool. So we can see right here, this is an example conversation. We have run check availability tool. So for example, the lead might say, Thank you, or the lead might say, yes, do you have any availability at 3 p.m., right? And then we're going to prompt the agent to say, one moment, I'll check that for you, right? And then put in brackets, run the tool. So making sure it's conversational, right? We don't want the agent to, hallucinate and run the tool before they've even set a time, right? So again, this is just extra layers we can add onto the voice agent prompt as well. Then we've got here, we've got, book appointment tool. So once the lead has provided its information, the agent will confirm that and then run the book appointment tool. So you can see how we can layer these tools into the voice conversation as well. And then the final point, obviously, is this will serve as good context and good examples of how the conversation generally goes. So for example, if for whatever reason, maybe the customer is talking about something else, right? Something completely unrelated to the conversation, right? The agent can often, use this script as a guide to further guide it to its core objectives and its core tasks. So it's making sure that the conversation is always on track as well. And that's another really key point about this example conversation right here, which is why it's number 6 in the line. So also a good note here is in the prompt, if you think about how the agent is thinking, right? The top and bottom part is often the most important part. So, that's why we have the role and everything. So that's also a good note. Next is going to be notes. So this is the final reminders. So as the LLM is reading, these notes, this is going to be the last thing that it reads, right? So again, this is going to be adding in, the extra source. So this is going to be adding in, any final details that we may need. So again, this is your final opportunity to remind the voice agent the key aspects and add voice-specific tweaks to optimize conversation quality. So we can see voice agent notes. This is just maybe some things that you might add to the end to enhance the conversational ability of the AI agent. So again, always speak clearly and at an appropriate pace for phone conversations. Do not put callers on hold without explanation. All these things that we can put into it. Confirm all important details. And then down here is what we call the lost in the middle effect. So that's what I was actually explaining earlier, is voice agents perform best when critical instructions are at the beginning or the end of the prompts, right? And a little bit of research behind it is 25% of better performance when key instructions are positioned at the start or the end. Instructions in the middle are often forgotten or ignored. So that's why it's really important to keep it really concise and focused. So, often we don't want a massive prompt because this might cause the agent to hallucinate or to forget things, right? So that's also a very, very good thing right there. And then the research results when the relevant document at the beginning or the end of the context. So this is from GPT 3.5, achieves around 75% accuracy on a QA task and an increase of 25% compared to when the document was placed in the middle. So that just proves that the research shows that, putting the most important part at the front and the back really is going to enhance our prompt. So again, this is going to be our overall structure. So now you have a clear idea on how your prompt structure should be every single time by going over everything. So not only will using this, exact prompting formula and structuring it in this way, step by step is going to make, a drastic difference to your voice AI agents as well, but it's also going to enhance the quality and the value you provide to business owners when building these voice AI agents. So that leads us to our next thing. So we won't really leave it at there, right? We can add in something special, the source on top to really, really, really enhance these prompts. So this is called markdown formatting. So this is essentially a way to structure our voice AI agent prompt. So again, we can structure it by using formatting that the LLM can read. So if you think about what is actually going on inside these voice AI agents and the systems behind it, you can actually kind of add in these specific type of things to enhance the prompt. So again, long voice agent prompts need clear structure, markdown formatting, and it will also help organize different components and make prompts easier to read and maintain. So again, these are some of the type of things. So right here, this is some of the benefits. So clearer conversational flow, better organization, easier to update and maintain, and then also improved agent comprehension and complex instructions. So if we go out here, let's actually come into what we call markdown formatting. This is just a website that we have that will allow the agent to see kind of what it's seeing. So we can see right here that this is kind of some of the things that we can put inside our prompt to further enhance everything. So we can see right here, for example, right, for role, right, we might want it as a larger header, or for the conversation, we might want it in lists and dot points. So we can see right here, we can add hashtags in front of it. We can add asterisks in front of it, right? And this is going to enhance the prompt of our AI agent. So again, if you think about what the LLM is seeing, if we just get a example prompt right here, let me just flick over to here. We can actually go ahead and paste this in. You can see how that is now what the LLM is seeing. So this is actually what the LLM is seeing, right? So for those, for the role, for the task, for the specifics right there, it's highlighted in bold. So this is even going to enhance the way the AI agent understands the prompt and what to exactly do. So that's just an example of how you can do it. You can add in tables, you can add in images even, you can add in links. So again, this is a really great trick and a really great tool to enhance the prompts of our AI agents right here. So again, that's something very useful for us to note when we're also building these prompts. So now that we've added that formatting, we've added the roles, we've added everything, we've used everything to enhance the AI agents, now we're adding on some extra source markdown formatting to structure these prompts. So that's how you can take your prompts from beginner, to all the way to advanced, and it's such an important part of these prompts. So let's move down to the next thing, which is dynamic variables. So this is a great tip. When we're prompting the agent, we can add in these dynamic variables to inject personalized data into your AI agent responses for a specific call. So for example, we can add in the variable syntax. And our agents will adapt to that type of syntax to make the conversational flow better and more personalized. So for example, in our retail, dashboard, we can have hello customer name right here. So it's going to say hello John, right? So that is, that's a great way that we can personalize these prompts and make it even better, right? So again, where dynamic variables work. So in the instructions and personality, the begin message, so the opening and greeting, tool configurations, custom URL, custom function URLs, tool descriptions, property descriptions, etc. So if this is a really good way to add personalization into the AI agent. So for example, of course, you could have hello lead name for the customer greeting. You could have it inside the prompt, which is what I'll show you next. So again, this is a very great tip to use inside your prompts to make the prompt more personalized. So now, once we know all of this, you might be wondering, like, what exactly does a prompt look like when all this is put together? Now, that is going to be the next slide. This is what I would really call, a great prompt for a voice AI agent that I've built. So, let me just break it down in detail. So this is what everything looks like, together. We've got the markdown formatting. We've got the dynamic variables that we've used. We've got the entire, prompting format that we've used. So now you have a high quality voice AI agent right here. So we can see this might be for I believe it's a law firm, right? So we can see the role, you're a highly professional, empathetic voice AI agent for a law firm, specializing in personal injury cases. Your primary goal is to provide a seamless and professional client intake experience. You must clearly listen actively and maintain a calm, reassuring tone. So you can see how we've structured that role to fit a law firm, right? People might be calling up stressing about their personal injury, right? So we can prompt the AI agent to be able to handle those conversations more clearly. So that's a great example for a law firm. So you can see kind of how you can adapt that role towards that business's specific case, right? Tasks. Now, what may be an AI receptionist or a voice AI agent doing, right? It might be greeting the lead, making sure it's calm, making sure it's, responsive, right? Qualifying the lead, so making sure the lead's qualified, right? Checking availability, booking appointments, confirming, right? So you can see how I've used that chain of thought prompting for law firms, right? And this is a good thing. We also have those dynamic variables. So for example, greet the lead and confirm the reason you're reaching out. In this case, it was an outbound agent for a law firm. So we were able to get in data and put them inside the prompt to make the conversation personalized. So again, that's a great, reference to this dynamic variables that a little bit of context, but essentially it was like a form and they had the reason for them reaching out. So we can put this into the AI agent and it can automatically confirm the reason, right? It'll already have that information to make the conversation more personalized using that dynamic variable. So again, this is the chain of thought prompting right here. Qualifying the lead. Again, I deleted out all the all of the qualification criteria because it was just too long and couldn't fit on the screen. But again, you can see how we've used that chain of thought prompting, and then we've used all of that prompt engineering. Again, I won't go in detail too much. So again, now it knows its role, it knows its task. We've used dynamic variables to personalize the conversation. We've got the markdown formatting there. The agent sees it clearly. It's in a nice structured format. So you can kind of see how we combine all these things to make these voice AI agents prompts really good, right? And again, we've got the specifics, right? So hold times, personalization, use the caller's name, right? Error handling, how to handle errors, right? Keep responses conversational, not robotic. So again, you can see how we've added that specifics underneath the task, right? Context, right? We've got a little bit of context about the law firm. So you operate within a high stakes legal environment. You must understand that every caller is a potential client facing a difficulty or stressful situation. So you can see we're giving a little bit of context behind why the caller is calling, right? Your firm's core values are, empathy, efficiency, and professionalism. So again, we're giving a little bit of context about the businesses and their values and their mission statement, etc., right? And then here we've got an example conversation. So again, using that markdown format, as we can see, you can say, hey, dynamic variable again. This is Emily from Sunrise Legal. So again, there's the main things that we highlighted before is using some of those dynamic variables, letting the AI agent know how to structure the conversation. We're letting it know, when to call tools. So again, that's the example conversation. And then finally is the notes. Do not give legal advice. So again, perfect for a law firm, letting the AI agent know any final notes that it needs to know inside the conversation. So don't give any, legal advice, defer any legal questions to the attorney in consultation, maintain a professional and empathetic tone at all times. If the lead is not qualified, end the call politely. So again, a little bit of prompt engineering, a little bit of notes. This is where you can add your final jazz right here. So yeah, this is what, the prompt that we have all together. And this is really how you can use the structure we have, the markdown formatting, the personalization to create high quality voice AI agent prompts. So, okay, awesome. Now that we've completed prompting and simple agents, you should now have a great understanding on what voice AI agents are, how to create these simple agents inside retail AI, and then also prompting as well, and an in-depth guide and an understanding on how prompting works and how to effectively prompt these AI agents. So with that being said, we can now officially kind of dive in to number 3, which is going to be advanced agents right here. So if we come back over to here, this is going to be this section right here. So I'm going to be diving into all the features that retail has, such as the, multi-conversational type of capability, advanced conversation, building complex agents and mapping them out in workflows. And then also when to use advanced agents and then when to use simple agents as well. And then also some, good key considerations about these complex agents as well. So let's dive straight into it. So first of all, hopping back over to retail AI, and how to create these, complex agents. There's really 2 main differences. So these are probably the best case scenario for highly conversational and complex type of, overview. So for example, if an agent needs to, do a lot of tasks and has, a long conversation and a very complex conversational ability, a good example is this. For example, let's say an agent may need to, cancel, reschedule, book appointments, check availability, transfer to calls, maybe send SMSs, do API lookups, checkups. If its tools and functions of a very widely ranged, this is a great use case scenario to build these complex agents. Another key point also is if the agent needs to take in a lot of information. Now, the main difference between a simple agent and a complex agent is we can only use one prompt within the simple agent. So there's only one prompt in there. But with the complex agents, we can kind of, combine many prompts together and have a more structured conversational, overview as well. So with that being said, if the agent needs to collect a lot of information, in some cases, it could cause it to, what we call is, hallucinate, right? So the agent sometimes might hallucinate, get stuff wrong, and we really don't want that for the business. So that's probably the best use case and example of when to use these complex and conversational agents right here. So with that being said, let's jump into a quick demo and kind of explain to you how these agents work. So of course, if we go ahead and click on voice agent again, this is kind of the dashboard. So earlier we did a single prompt agent, which is what we did earlier, but instead we can choose 2 different types. And that's going to be a conversational flow agent and a multi-prompt agent. So let's actually go ahead and pick one of these templates right here, and you can kind of see how it works. So let's actually go ahead and let's go ahead and select this real estate lead qualification one. So if we go ahead and select this, you can kind of see an overview on how these conversational and complex agents kind of work. And it's a little bit different than what we're used to. So if we zoom out a little bit, you can kind of see this is the UI that we agreed with. It is a kind of like a workflow overview diagram. So if we kind of see how these voice AI agents is mapped out in conversation, you can kind of see how retail have allowed us to use their platform to design this. So if we come into this, and we'll use multiple templates as well to kind of get an understanding. So just like the symbol agents, we still have a lot of these capabilities right here, but it's just in kind of this workflow UI type of conversation. So essentially how this works is, whenever someone calls the phone, it's going to start off with this begin message or the greeting message right here. So every time it's going to start off with this first prompt. And you can see how what I was saying earlier is we have a bunch of these different prompts and transitions as well. So just to put it simply, just like our symbol agent, we have one prompt here, and then we add another prompt, and then we add another prompt, right? So as the conversation goes, through start to finish, what retail is doing is it's looking at all these prompts, and it's just doing it more rigidly and more kind of like how do I explain it? It's doing it more like step by step type of thing, right? And more logically. So that just allows us to reinforce higher quality and reinforce, more rigid conversations as well to make sure it gets what it needs to be doing. So if we see down here, these are what we call nodes. So right here, we can have different nodes inside our conversational flow agent. So for example, we can add a conversation node, which is what this exactly is here. So when this is connected to another conversation node, it's going to move down that. So for example, right here, this is going to be, the begin. So whenever someone begins the call, it's going to go to this greeting right here. And as we can see in this template, this is what we call a global prompt. So this is a global prompt for the overall agent. So we can see we've got the task overview, the guidelines, and this is going to be our global prompt as well. Right there, we've got the LLM, we've got the language, and then we've got the model as well. And then from there, it's going to move on to the next node, which is the greeting node, right? So we've got the prompt right here, or the static sentence. So hello, first name. This is Kelsey here from South Bay Investment in the Bay Area. This is going to be the first prompt, right? And then from there, once it's greeted the user, it'll go down to the next node, right? Which is the conversational node. So you can kind of see how this will just, logically kind of go through the conversation, right? So again, that goes back to my first point where these are very useful in these highly complex conversational agents where there's multiple kind of branches for these AI agents to go down to. So we can see it'll then move on to the next agent, right? As you can see, this is connected to what we call a transition. So that's how it works in kind of this mapped out flow. So we can see it's connected via transition. So whenever the user replies, right, they say something, it's then going to move down to this confirm node, right? And then from there, it's going to say out this prompt. So, this is what's going into the LLM. So let the user know you work with a lot of clients to diversify their portfolio, invest in the Bay Area with annual returns up to 40%, and just confirm that you want to reach out to see if a real estate investment was something they have looked into before properly exploring, right? And then also a good point in here is based on what the user says, we can have multiple kind of, mapped out flows. For example, right? If the user shows interest, retail will recognize that and it will move on to the next node, which is, established general interest, right? But if the user is hesitant or has no interest, it'll then move down to this next conversational node. So you can see kind of how we can rigidly map out these conversations in detail, and we can have these valuable AI agents, attached to these conversations. And that this really makes them more complex, and it really makes them more valuable and more reliable is the word I'm looking for. So you can see how reliable we can make these agents based on kind of these things. So again, you can see, right? If we wanted to ask some open-ended questions, if the user is hesitant, it'll go down this path, right? And then if the client says yes or shows no interest, right, it'll head down this path. So we can see, you can see kind of how these conversations is mapped out, right? And then from there, if the user responds, it'll, let the budget know. If they say no, it'll then confirm an online meeting. If it confirms the budget, right, it'll do that, right? Confirm the online meeting, confirm the phone call. You can kind of see how this, you should be able to get a better understanding of how these conversational flows work. So that's how the conversational flow node works. And then let's move on to the function node. So if we come down here and we can see, again, still going through that same process of a conversational flow. Again, just speaking to the user. There's no API calls. There's no tools getting called yet. But as you can see right here, once the agent has collected the city, the email, the phone number, the preferred time and date, right, it'll then go ahead and check availability. That's going to be the second useful node right here, which is a function node. So just like we have in the simple agents in that function step, this is all that we're doing right here in retail is adding a function node. The only difference is that it's attached to more of a rigid conversational overview in here. So we can see check availability. So, right, it's then going to check availability based on these two slots. So again, availability exists for or a nearby range. If it is available, it's then going to go down this path and go attached to this conversational overview, right? If no availability exists, it's then going to tell the user that the time does not work. And then if they have another time that is available, it's then going to, recognize that, and it's going to come back to that. So you can see kind of how we can map these agents out, just like this in more of a conversational flow, right? So you can see how that will work, right? And then from there, it'll go down and book the meeting. So again, another great use case for this function up here is it's going to actually go ahead and book the meeting after the slot has been chosen. So if the availability exists, it's going to move down here, and then it's going to book the meeting. So you can kind of see how it's logically set out, right? And then from there, we also have, once it's booked it, it'll then go ahead and end call, which brings us down to the ending, right? You can add in end calls. So the AI agent will end call as soon as its task has been completed. So now if we come back into these new nodes, I'll just kind of dive deep in how they actually work as well. So just very much like the other functions that we have, we can also do a call transfer. So maybe, for example, we have in this global node, right? We could have this set up here as a greeting, right? And we can have a transition. So for example, let's add a transition, right? We can say, if the user, if the user detects a management, right? So we can say if the user okay, let's change this here. We can say, okay, we can kind of say maybe if the customer wants to speak to a manager, right? If the customer, in this example, it's real estate, if the customer wants to speak to the property owner, right? For example, so we can add if the customer wants to speak to the property owner. Don't worry about my spelling. Then we can add a call transfer node. So let's add this call transfer node, and then we can connect it up to that right there. So now if this global prompt detects if a user wants to speak to a property owner, it'll then go ahead and transfer the call. So you can see kind of how it logically, works out, right? Press digit is, we don't really need to worry about. That's more of an IVR type of transfer thing, which I won't go too much in detail until later. Logic split node, again, this is just an if-else type of thing. If this happens, then this will happen. So for example, this could be maybe a good reason, right? Let's say maybe, if this transfer call fails, it'll then, do this, right? So, we can add, let's add you can add an equation or something. Let's add a prompt, right? So, if this happens, or we can do, maybe this call fails, right? It's going to go down this path. And then if the call succeeds, it will go down this path. So you can add these logic splits nodes to add more logic into your AI agent. But the main, point of this section is to kind of give you an understanding on how to create advanced agents as well. And you can kind of see how everything would actually go ahead and work. And then we have an agent transfer. So again, very much like a transfer call, you can add agent transfers to the agent as well. So for example, let's just say maybe we want to ask some questions. Okay, let's just say maybe we wanted to transfer to an agent with a call, right? So let's just do confirm budget. Okay, for example, let's just say we wanted to transfer to another agent for whatever reason, right? We can add an agent transfer right here. We can add a transition inside the budget. So for example, if the user wants to, if the user has a budget, maybe we want to transfer to an agent that is specified for budgeting. So we can kind of create these complex agents and these complex workflows to also transfer to other AI agents that are more specialized in that field. So, you could have, a lead qualification agent that is just for lead qualification, right? Another good use case could be, when the user wants to book an appointment, right? If they want to book an appointment, maybe we could transfer to another AI agent. So you can kind of see how we can map these AI agents in there. And again, very simple. All we need to do is kind of connect these lines and these transitions up towards these different nodes. So that's just hopefully how you have an overview of how now this complex agent works and how you can format all these different things, all these different logics, right? Again, the same goes for SMS, right? Maybe you want an agent to send an SMS after they've booked an appointment. So let's go ahead and drag this over here. And again, let's do final confirmation, right? Maybe you want to add a transition to, send an SMS, right? Send a SMS to the customer, for example, right? And then you could have this connected up to hold on. You could have this connected up to there, right? So you can kind of see how you can combine all these nodes and map them out in a conversational flow, which is what I'm really trying to get you to understand, is how that's essentially how you can create these complex agents for these more, complex conversational workflows right here. But yeah, that's just kind of the overview now on those complex agents. Let's just go ahead and get out of that. And let's dive into the next section, which is going to be the multi-prompt agents, which is also very important. So let's dive into a dentist reschedule template right here, and I'll show you how these work. So these are a little bit different, right? Essentially, it's very much similar to the simple agents, but we just have more prompting, right? So we can come down here and edit a prompting tree. So again, think of this like the kind of the V1 version compared to the last version. So it's a very much more simplified UI. So it's very much easier. So we can see down here, we might have the main prompt right here, but we can also have a prompt tree, right? So from the intro, that might be its task right there. It'll have tools. We can add new states. So for example, this state might be another prompt, right? So again, this is just a way of combining all these different, prompts within inside the system. So we can see we will have one prompt here, right? So think about how it's just like a prompt tree, right? So you can have the AI agent go through this prompt right here, and then you can see it'll go down and reschedule the appointment. And edge essentially means describe the condition that triggers that transition to the next state. So very much similar like the other section I just showed you, but it's just a more simplified version, right? So this could be very viable for agents that don't fall within the complex range, or agents that don't fall within the simple range, but just kind of fall right in the middle, and you need more structure to these conversations. So for example, you can have an intro, right? The agent introduces itself, and then if the user wants to reschedule an appointment, it'll go down and reschedule, and it'll go through those tools, right? Maybe the user wants to it wants any customer property, or business information, right? We can have business information. Need to make sure we add that right there, right? And then we can have the prompt for handling that conversation, and then we can attach a tool, right? Maybe we want to attach a custom function which calls to an API database, right? So you can kind of see how we can conduct kind of these workflows right here, right? So we can see, let's connect this down here. Let's add an edge, and let's do, right? We can do the customer wants to know information about the business, right? So the customer wants to know information about the business. It's then going to go down this path, right? And then you can have the same thing. So you can add maybe a new state, right? This could be maybe canceling, right? The customer wants to cancel an appointment. So you can see we're just adding another layer of rigidness onto our AI agents. Canceling, right? You can have that there. Come down, add the edge again. So this just will give you a better overview. It's just kind of the in-between point, in between, not quite a simple agent, but not quite more of that complex conversational flow agent. You may just want more structure to your simple agent. So that's really what this is right here. So we'll just cancel that. But yeah, essentially that's just going to be a quick overview on kind of how to create more of these complex type of agents. Again, really the use case for these is, as I said in the beginning, is if for the simple agents, you don't want the agent to hallucinate, so you might use a conversational flow agent, which requires more, rigid formatted conversations, as retail says it right here. And obviously you can go ahead and, connect everything. So let's just go actually into, for example, let's actually just do a quick demo so you can actually see how it works in real time. So let's say, we use this, and we can actually go ahead and test the agent right here. Run a test. So let's test it.
Hey, is this Squash customer name? This is Angela from the real estate AI team. Is now a good time to chat for a few minutes?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks. So I just wanted to let you know that our AI solution can really help modernize real estate processes, like making things faster and, more efficient. Would you be interested in booking a meeting with one of our automation specialists to learn a bit more about how it could work for you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Before we set anything up, could I just get your name?
Yeah, it's Ashton.
Thanks, Ashton. Could you share your email with me so I can send over the meeting details?
Yeah, it's ashtonvoss47@gmail.com.
All right, just to double check, your email is ashtonvoss47@gmail.com, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Ashton. I'm just checking our calendar for available times right now. This will just take a moment. Hey, Ashton, it looks like those times actually don't work. Could you let me know another day or time that might be good for you?
Yeah, sure. But yeah, you can see just through that demo, you can see kind of how the agent moves through the conversation. So that's really the main use case for these, complex agents is designing all of these different flows and logic-based type of automations in a voice case, in a voice setting and scenario, really to create these voice AI agents. So you can see how you can see in the demo, it actually went down, it mapped through those steps based on this transition. It decided its logic and what it wanted to do, and then it just kind of followed out through the conversational flow process. So hopefully, you had a great understanding of the use cases for simple agents and then more complex agents, and now you have a beginner's guide and a beginner's understanding on how these different agents work in these scenarios. So now you can go ahead and build these agents. If you want to build a complex agent or a conversational flow agent, you can use the templates here, and you can use kind of everything that I've told you and provided to you. So yeah, that's going to be kind of it for this complex, or really understanding how these agents work. Now what we can do is we can get into the next section right here, which is going to be agent settings. All right, now let's get into number 4, which is going to be agent settings. So now that you've understood how these voice AI agents work, simple agents, prompting, complex agents, how all the platforms and features in retail work. Let's dive into actually customizing our agent to produce high quality agents right here. So I'm going to be going through speech settings, real-time transcriptions, configurations, call settings for use cases, post-call analysis, and then also security compliances and best practices as well. So if we head back into our simple agent, this is really the best use case to kind of go through it. So I'm just going to be going through all these different customizability sections right here. So of course, this is going to be the function tab. So this is essentially, it says right here, so enable your agent with capabilities such as calendar bookings, call determinations, etc. So we can see I'm not going to be going into this step by itself because it's a whole nother step within the integrations capabilities with Make and N8N and all that, and how to do everything over there. But as you can see, this is going to, the functions. It's not really anything to do with the speech settings or transcription settings or the agent settings. It's just enabling, external capabilities right there. Knowledge base, I also won't really get into that. That's part of the next section. But what I'm going to be covering is all of this stuff right here. So speech settings, transcription settings, all that type of stuff. I thought I'd give you a quick overview and kind of a guide on what all this means and how to customize it. So let's first get into speech settings. So first of all, right here you can add background sounds. So this is very, very useful for creating more realistic agents, right? When you're speaking to someone on the phone, usually there are more than likely there's background sounds within these settings, whether it's in an office, whether it's in wherever, right? So we can add in these background sounds. As you can see, retail have these sounds inbuilt. You can have it in a call center, you can have it in a coffee shop, convention hall, whatever, right? So this just adds a layer of realism to our voice AI agents, and just makes the front end experience for the user better, because we don't want to sound like a bot. We don't want them to sound like a just a robot that they're talking to. So we can add some background sound, which is a very good thing that I like to do, right? And obviously you can customize the volume here. So if you have it up higher, it's going to be louder, right? I usually would have it just very low, just so it blends in with kind of the background and the AI speaking, right? Then here we have responsiveness. This is a very important setting. So control how fast the AI agent responds after the user is speaking. So if we have it down right here, when turned down, the latency will increase. So when the latency, as you can see, that's ridiculous, 4 seconds, right? So we want the agent to, be responding as fast as possible. So obviously, this setting doesn't really matter. It's just a preference type of thing, right? If you want the agent to be really quick, obviously you will have it up faster. If you want it to be slow, that's your case. But do keep in mind that the latency is going to change. If you have it all the way down, you can have the latency come up 5 seconds, which is ridiculous. But again, have it at 1. That's really everything. Again, responsiveness is just how fast the agent speaks. Right there. And then interruption sensitivity. So control how sensitively the AI can interrupt by human speech. So for example, if I was speaking and I stopped, right? this will be, kind of that setting for that. So if you have it up lower, the AI sensitivity, it won't be as sensitive, to interrupting, by human speech. So for example, if it was speaking, sorry, this is actually the other end, but I was thinking about the other setting. Sorry, this is actually when the AI agent is speaking and it detects the human, also talking, right? So if it's higher, it's going to be more sensitive to sounds. Therefore, it's going to be more easily interrupted. Sorry, I got mixed up there. But again, the higher it is, the more sensitive it's going to be to more interruptions. For example, right, if we had it up higher, and I maybe spoke one word, or I spoke very quietly, or if I spoke, very quietly, right, that's going to mean it's more sensitive. So it's going to stop talking. It's going to let the user speak, right? You have down lower, it's not going to be as sensitive to things speaking. So that's just a very sorry, I got that mixed up with another thing. I was thinking about something else. But yeah, you can kind of see how we can customize that as well. So this is a very good setting, and retail allows us to create this, right? So again, I would probably have it around half half. You don't want the AI agent being stopped by every little thing. Maybe if you're speaking on the phone, and you were speaking to someone in your office or something like that, it's not really necessary that the AI has to be stopped every time. But we also want to maintain a very smooth conversational flow as well. So that's how we can customize this as well. And combining all these different settings really allows us to create these high quality agents, right? So it's very important you know this, right? And then enable backchanneling. So enables the AI agent to use affirmations like yeah or aha during conversation, indicating active listening and engagement. Again, this is a very, very good setting, beautiful setting, because it just creates our agents more realistic, right? So if you enable this, the agent is now able to say yes or aha, or have these slight, kind of human-like conversations, right? I actually would recommend enabling this, right? And then you can change the frequency of it. You can add back channel words. So maybe, for example, if you were working in a more professional business, right, you may want it to say yes or correct, or maybe even affirmative sometimes, maybe. But you can kind of get what I mean. You can change the list of words that the agent would use for backchanneling, right? So again, great setting from retail here. Of course, you can add in the frequency. Obviously, higher means it's going to say it more. Lower is going to mean it's not going to say it as often, right? So I probably would leave this around 5 right here, and then you can add these words like yes, okay, sure, all those type of things, right? So you can add in those words within that backchanneling setting right here. Enable speech normalization. So again, this converts text elements like numbers, currency, and dates into human-like spoken forms. All right, so we actually just click learn more. You can see what retail actually means by this. So normalize some part of the text. So number, currency, dates, etc. Into its spoken form for more consistent speech synthesis. Sometimes TTS models might read or normalize something wrong. So for example, right, you could have someone call my number at, XYZ on July 5th for the $42 payment, right? And then you can convert that to a more conversational language, such as call my number, 2137555 at July 5th, 2024 for the $24 $12, right? So you can see this just allows us to have more conversational capabilities within the agent. Yeah, that just changes the speech settings. So that will really change how the AI interacts and all the intricacies and settings within its speech capabilities. So again, this is all in the background. If we come back to this quickly, this is all in the background, changing all these different types of things and ASR and everything. So again, retail allows us to be the all-in-one platform for these things. All right. And then real-time transcriptions settings. So right here, this is going to be the transcription model. So denoising mode, filter out unwanted background noise or speech. Go ahead and click learn more. Retail have a bunch of information on this. So as you can see if your use cases usually have loud background speech like a TV or a construction site, you can remove the noise background speech model, right? So essentially what that means is if your customers may be calling in a loud environment, let's just say maybe you're a builder, right? And you've got let's just say you're a roofer, for example, right? And you've got builders calling you about, maybe they want, roofing installed on a house, right? This is a great use case for that. You can filter out all the background noise because maybe the builders are in busy construction sites, right? And this will make it easier for our voice AI agent to understand the transcription settings, right? Remove noise and background speech. So it removes background speech such as human voices from TVs with aggressive denoising, and it may reduce transcription activity. So again, this is more of a an aggressive type of reduction. Again, you can have just remove noise. Obviously, this would depend on the business's context and scenario. Again, using the example I did before, such as the roofer getting called by a builder, right? That's a great use case scenario. But if it was just in a normal setting or just people calling up, it's probably best just to have this off because it may, decrease some of the transcription accuracy as well. So again, that's a great setting, and that's what that means right here. Transcription mode. We can go ahead and just learn more about this. So again, this is going to be type of the mode. So optimize for speed. Use the latest interim results with low ending point settings for downstream processing. Again, we don't really need to worry about this too much. This is just some of the settings around our transcription. So again, you can have it optimized for speed. So this is going to reduce the latency, or you can have it optimized for accuracy. So this will incur more latency. Again, based on experience, I would just leave it at this, optimized for speed. It really doesn't matter. Again, it's more to do with the LLM and type of things. But again, I would just have it optimized for speed. So again, that just allows us to change the transcription mode if you want it more accurate to transcribe things. This can be useful for dealing with emails. So as we know, emails can be quite an issue dealing with these voice agents. So you might want it optimized for accuracy and optimized obviously in the prompt as well. So that's a good use case scenario when dealing with emails. You want the transcription to be accurate into transcribing the user's speech to text. So you could also switch that on there, but obviously note that the latency is going to be higher in that case. Vocabulary specialization. So choose the vocabulary set to use for transcriptions. So general, this just works. The vocabulary is just going to be generally across human speech. Medical, optimized for healthcare terms. So as you can see, it's going to use more medical vocabulary, right? So this is again a great setting for different scenarios and businesses, as you can really see how much effort retail put into their platform that allows us to create these reliable agents and also customize them highly for the businesses we're working for. Boosted keywords. So provide a customized list of keywords to expand our model's vocabulary. Great example. For example, maybe builders. Let's go back to builders or roofers, right? They might use certain language that is applicable in their workspace, or jargon, whatever, right? We can add in boosted keywords here to create the agent, and add in these words that builders use. So this will make our agent more conversational and more customizable, right? Great use case. So again, adding in words that we want the agent to use more frequently. Essentially, that is what it's saying right here. That's going to be the transcription settings and all that, and then core settings. So again, this is also a very, very important type of thing. Voicemail detection. So hang up or leave a voicemail if a voicemail is detected. For example, obviously pretty self-explanatory. If the agent is calling someone, maybe it's an outbound call, or maybe it has to make an outbound call, right? It's going to actually, you can customize it to leave a message if it's reaching voicemail, right? So if the agent calls someone, it goes to voicemail, it'll leave a message if it does reach voicemail. So say, hey, sorry, we couldn't reach you directly. Please give us a call back. I add this in for all of our outbound agents because obviously it's very useful leaving a voicemail. A lot of people listen to them. So you're going to simply actually go ahead and just add it right here. So you can add a static sentence or a prompt. A prompt obviously is going to be generated by AI, and then a static sentence is just the same thing. Again, just use a static sentence. Really no difference right there. It's not going to matter too much. And then you can also switch it up to hanging up, which will just hang up directly, right? So again, that's going to be those voicemail settings as well. Use the keypad input selection. So enable the AI to listen for keypad input during the call. For example, this can be useful if a business or has a IVR setting, right? So the AI will respond when any of the following conditions are met. Timeout. The AI will respond if no keypad input is detected within the set time. So for example, if someone doesn't put in a keypad, right, in the call, it'll actually go ahead and just time out, right? Termination key. The AI will respond when the user presses the configured termination key. So again, these are just all IVR settings, right? So how you have those settings where you press one or go to this. These are just settings around that. So you can customize this, switch certain things on as well. Right, end call silence. So end the call if the user stays silent for an extended period of time. This is a great setting. Sometimes, for maybe whatever reason, the user might just randomly, drop out, or something might happen, right? They might speak to another person. They might forget that they're on a call, right? These are all settings that we can do to save our minutes, to save our billing, and to create these highly valuable agents that have all these capabilities. So if the user, stays silent between maybe They can do up to maybe 30 seconds might be good, all the way up to 30 minutes. Again, no point in that. But yeah, you can really leave it down for maybe a minute or 2 minutes, really. Again, this is all going to be built on your minutes, so make sure you customize this. Maybe you want to have it lower at 20 seconds. If it doesn't speak within 20 seconds, it'll time out, right? This is a great setting to customize our agents inside retail, right? Max call duration, how long the call is meant to last. So, of course, we may only want the call to last for maybe, 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes, depending on the conversational flow. If your agent is expected to have longer conversational flow, then you would have it up to kind of the limit you want. For example, maybe a simple agent like this, which should only be a check availability, book appointment. You may only want it to be 3 minutes, right? It may only take 2-3 minutes to get it done, right? Maybe you want to push it to 4 even, right? And this just makes sure, again, we're not using too much unnecessary minutes under the client's account. Obviously, we don't want them to make us spend an insane amount of money. We don't want someone to be, playing around with our AI agent, or, calling the AI agent, muting themselves, doing all that type of stuff just to rack up a bill minutes. I'm not sure who would do that, but sometimes there is those case scenarios. So these settings allow us to, customize our agent in that type of view. So ring duration, the max ring duration for the outbound or transfer call is deemed no answer. So again, this is pretty self-explanatory. Just like when you're ringing someone, how many what is the ring duration before the agent is just terminated, right? So again, you can customize that, right? So these are all these settings in here, which makes, these call settings, useful, right? Post-call analysis. So again, this is important. I believe, yeah, we're still in that. Post-call analysis is very important. Define the information you would need to extract from the voice. So if we click learn more right now, you can go ahead and read up all this type of things. Essentially, this just allows us to add some post-call analysis on top of the voice agent. So for example, we can use AI to do this as well. So essentially what it's going to be doing is it's going to be taking the transcript of the call that has been recorded, and then it's going to be, summarizing it. For example, you can add in text right here. So you can prompt AI to take the conversation that is made by AI to create a summary. For example, you could have a detailed call summary with the description. So detailed summary of the call before you transfer the call to a human agent, so that the agent can understand the context of the call. For example, you could have a summary. For example, maybe you had an agent transferring to another agent, right? You can have a detailed call summary. So you can give the agent some context. You can add a format example in there, but that's that text part. So we come down here as well. Boolean, which is essentially a simple yes or no determination. So example, whether the customer is a first-time caller, right? That might be a Boolean type of thing, right? Text, right? That's again that call summary. The number, which is transaction amount, call duration, satisfaction scores, and then selector, which is also an enum, is categorization from a fixed list. Example, issue types, product types. So for example, you can have agents extract information from the transcript. So for example, maybe you want the agent to extract the type of appointment, maybe whatever, right? You want the agent to extract the type of appointment, right? You can have it as a number, or if you come back here, you can have it as a selector. Sorry, so a selector will select certain parts or things that is required from the thing, right? So that's kind of those settings right there. And then of course you can also customize the LLM to do this, right? A great example is maybe you want Claude to do a more in-depth analysis and a more in-depth reasoning behind the summary of the call, right? This is a great use case for Claude right there. So again, this doesn't really matter because this is happening after the call. So the latency won't be an issue here. So maybe you want to use Claude for better reasoning, right? So okay, yeah, that's a great use for customizing those LLMs. Security and fallback setting, right? This is very useful for a lot of agents. For example, sometimes I work with clients in Europe which require GDPR, which is a particular Europe privacy law. So again, that really just incurs about the the recording of some calls, the data storage of some calls. So this is where we can customize our agents to be compliant with those laws, right? So security and fallback settings. So choose how retail stores sensitive data. So everything would mean, the numbers, the emails, the phone numbers, the transcriptions, everything. But for example, for healthcare, you maybe want only basic attributes only. So this will only store metadata. It won't, store any transcriptions. It won't store any call recordings, any PII data. That will all be removed, right? So we'll only store, the metadata that really is needed to run the system. Again, you can customize this. So again, if you have it selected on that, it's going to record nothing. If you have it on that, it'll be everything except PII. And if you have it on everything, it's going to record everything, right? And then personal info redaction. So again, only redact the specific categories of sensitive data you choose while preserving other call recordings, transcripts, and analytics. So for example, you can set this up. So whatever you select here, it's not going to record with inside the transcripts and call recordings. So for example, very useful for maybe you might have, medical, or you might have insurance, right? The agent might be required to, collect some personalized or some information. So you can actually choose which type of information you want redacted or cut out from the conversation. For example, maybe it's a medical, or it's a dentist, right? They might have a specific ID for the healthcare or whatever type of healthcare industry you're in, and you can select that here, so the agent won't actually record it. It won't be recorded anywhere, and that's obviously for privacy reasons for the business and the customer purpose type of thing. So this is how you can set up your agent to be compliant with a lot of these laws right here. Opt-in secure URLs. Add more security to URLs. URLs will expire in 24 hours. So again, by default, the URLs we generate for call recordings do not expire. Again, you can add in expiry dates for these URLs for call recordings. Again, pretty simple, just an on and off setting. Fallback voice ID. If the current voice provider fails, assign a fallback voice for the current call. Great setting right here. For example, if for whatever reason, maybe 11 Labs APIs or their services are down, right? We can go ahead and add in a backup voice, which might be OpenAI. So if that fails and the connection doesn't happen, we can add in OpenAI or a Cartesia voice to add a level of fallback right there. So again, great feature right there from retail. Default dynamic variables, so set up variables for across all endpoints if they're not provided. So again, we don't really need to dive into this, but essentially this just means these are just fallback values for the initial dynamic variables that we have. If you don't really understand dynamic variables, for example, this might be the current time, right? If for whatever reason the LLM doesn't recognize that current time, we can add in a fallback variable that may correct itself, right? So again, that's just kind of what that means. Same thing for the fallback voice ID. It's just a very similar use case for the variables, right? So that's how that works. And yeah, that covers the security and fallback settings, right? And then from there we have the webhook settings. So again, this is only one thing, and this is just an inbound webhook to receive from retail. So again, if we go ahead and click on this, you can kind of see in depth about what it actually is. Again, webhook overview. Webhooks allows your application to receive real-time notifications about events that incur within the retail account. Instead of continuously polling our API, webhooks push to your application as events happen, making your integrations more efficient and responsive. So again, this just allows us to receive webhooks and data from retail. Next section is going to be number 5, which is going to be knowledge bases and attaching knowledge context about the business to our voice AI agents. So we just go into this section right here. So I'm going to be teaching you how to upload documents inside retail, and also some of the technical capabilities around what is actually happening inside the knowledge bases. Some of the what we call chunking that allows the AI agent to have knowledge, and then also how to really organize it and create a kind of a layout for your knowledge base so it's best for the LLM to understand. And then also in the prompt as well, how to make sure the AI agent effectively uses this knowledge base inside the prompt. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So first of all, let's go back into retail up here. And as we can see, we have this knowledge base section right here. So if we go ahead and click into that, this is where we're able to add in all of our knowledge bases. Now, I've got an example Real Estate Australia knowledge base PDF right here. It's just generated by ChatGPT. But essentially, all that you want to do is literally you want to come in here and upload it. Give it a name. So let's just do test agent right here. Let's go ahead and add some documents. We can add it by file. So let's go ahead and add the file right there. Then we'll come it down to this one right here, which is going to be essentially, I just downloaded this again so you can see how it works. Then we can go ahead and click save. And then what it's essentially doing is it's loading this document, it's chunking it up, and it's putting it into retail, and it's attaching it to an agent. And I'll show you how you can attach a knowledge base to an agent later. But while that is loading and it's essentially chunking it up, I just kind of want to go into actually what is happening in retail, like what is actually happening to the agent. How does this actually work? So as we can see right here, this is the official docs from Retail AI. So enhance the AI agent with knowledge using URLs, documents, custom text for better responses. So if we come back here, we can also add URLs as well. So we can add text manually right here. We can add files of text. We can add the sync your websites or web pages. So for example, I can add my website right here. And it's going to actually go ahead and use all that knowledge from the website and sync it up to the AI agent. So those are three types of knowledges that you can attach to an AI agent. Now, I probably would recommend doing the this one right here. But as you can see, that's just loading right now. Hopefully, it should come through soon. But yeah, that's kind of the three types of knowledge bases you can have and attach to the agent. Now, knowledge bases are very important for your voice agent because number one, it kind of acts as like the company's knowledge base, right? So, for example, if the customer asks any questions about the business or about the company, the voice AI agent will be able to refer to that long list or a long file of company information rather than having it in the prompt. So it kind of separates it as well, and then it also allows it to answer any questions as well. So this knowledge base is really important for how the AI agent is going to answer any questions. So we have to put in this knowledge base, FAQs, services, how the business works, just general company information, social medias, what the website is, opening hours, etc. Right? So that's kind of all the things from there. Let me just get in frame. But yeah, so yeah, that's essentially how it works. And as you can see, the supported sources are website content, documents. These are all the documents that it supports, and everything. So right here, you can actually see how it works. So when a knowledge base is linked to an agent, the agent will always try and retrieve information from the knowledge base before responding. So this already happens automatically, but I'll show you how to put it inside your prompt as well to make sure it enhances the accuracy as well. So during the call, when the agent is about to respond, it will also use the transcript so far. So the prompt does not include to find the most relevant chunks from the knowledge base. Now, essentially, what chunks are is during the creation of the knowledge base, it'll chunk it up to sources and then embed them and store it into a vector database. So again, it's very similar to a RAG system here. So as soon as we enter that PDF, that text content is going to get split up into chunks. Now, essentially, the whole purpose of this is just to make it easier for the AI to understand, right? So the chunks of text is kind of like split up into different lines and sections of the document, right? For example, I don't know why that's still in progress. Let's just switch back to this one. And I'll go ahead and open this download. So if you think about, again, this is just an example of a knowledge base, right? You can see we've got the company overview, we've got services offered, we've got geographical coverage, etc. This is just generated. Obviously, great use case here is this is a real estate one. So you can also put different properties in it. You can put different company information inside this. And essentially all that's happening, obviously, within here is that, essentially all that's happening in here is when we're putting this file in, it's going to break it up into chunks. And then we have chunks of text. And then from there, it's going to convert it into what we call an embedding. Now, an embedding is essentially just a mathematical equation it just makes the LLM and the AI understand the information better. And then it'll load it into a vector database, which will essentially store everything. So this is all happening behind the scenes with retail AI. And it makes it really easy for us to go ahead and attach these knowledge bases. So that's just what's happening behind the scenes. And that's just a general overview of everything right here. This image explains it perfectly right here. So a retail have that function, obviously. So we come back into here. That's kind of how it all works. As you can see, you can also enable auto refreshing or auto recalling for URL sources in your knowledge base. So auto refreshing, when enabled, the system will automatically refetch all URLs in the knowledge base every 24 hours. So again, this is great if you have a website that's updating or you have a company knowledge base online that's updating. You can have the AI agent that will automatically refresh for all these new information that's coming in, right? And then here's some just some information about kind of the limits around it. So you can see they've got max file limits at 50 megabytes, CSVs, etc. Got 50 max text snippets. But again, this is really all that we really would need. And then apart from that, you can kind of have more workflows that do API calls on the back end. But again, these limits are pretty much fine. I don't usually go over these limits when designing the agents. But yeah. Best practices. So right here, this is very, very important. So as I showed you right here, this is just an example knowledge base. But what you can actually do is you can actually go ahead and put markdown format in it. So this is a lot better for the LLM to understand because it is retrieved more accuracy. So I'll show you exactly, how to actually do that as well a little bit later on in the section, which is what I'll get into. But essentially, when we're designing these knowledge bases, we can use markdown format, which is essentially a format that allows the AI to understand the text and the content better as well. So we can add in hashtags for headers. We can add in double hashtags as well for headers. A markdown format type of software right here. So if we think about our company real estate, we just copy and paste this in. I'll show you quickly. Let's go ahead and copy this in, right? So let's just copy this in. Again, it looks a little bit, messy at the moment, but let me just show you what I mean. So for example, you can structure your document like this, right? You can put in double hashtags right here and can make headers and it can make different things. So if you think about how the document is structured, you can structure the document like this with headers with dot points. Because in reality, when we're putting this text into the vector database, it doesn't actually look like this, right? So we can use a format that the computer and AI will understand, known as markdown formatting, to better structure our knowledge base and have higher accuracy and higher retrieval inside of it. So as you can see, you could add, you can add, triple headers as well. You can add all these different other things. Again, it shows you inside the software. I will leave a link down to this. Is very useful inside this software, but you can see kind of how we can structure all of these different things inside our knowledge base. So it makes it easy for the AI to understand and also retrieve more accurate responses. So that's a very another important thing about our knowledge bases as well. And of course, I'm going to leave all the resources that I have. I'll leave an example knowledge base as well with all the markdown formatting as well. But that's also a very, very great tip for those knowledge bases. You can add in hashtags as well. So now that really covers everything about the knowledge base. And then we can actually go ahead and start implementing this into our voice agent. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to be using this Real Estate Australia Knowledge PDF, for example. So as we can see, I'm not sure why that's still loading. Again, this one is the exact same thing. It might be because it's the same PDF actually. But again, let's just use this one. So obviously, you know how to upload it. You can just upload the file in here. But let's come back to the agents, and let's put in this, a knowledge base right here. And all you need to do is go down to the knowledge base and then add it in here. And then you can do it as a real estate right there. And it's just going to add it automatically. Now, another thing that you want to do is also prompt the agent. So for example, in your prompt down here, we can add in, knowledge base, right? Now, in the document, Retail did mention that it automatically will search the knowledge base for any Q&A, but I do like to do this and add it into our prompt as well. So for example, you can have when the user asks a question, you must refer to the knowledge base, right? So you can put these things into prompt the agent more effectively as well. And then you can also say, like, if you do not know any information about the company, you must not guess. And you can prompt the agent to, and you can essentially, what I'm trying to say here is you can prompt the agent inside this section to, you can prompt it how to actually retrieve the knowledge base, right? So not only will Retail automatically do it, but you can also prompt the agent as well how to retrieve knowledge for the company information, right? So you could, for example, maybe you could say, if the customer asks about sensitive information for the business, right, do not go ahead and retrieve it, right? If the customer asks about opening hours, maybe you can put in, let them know that, you can kind of see what I'm getting at. You can prompt the agent to, retrieve certain things. That you can prompt it how to retrieve it as well. So that's also another very important point to add into all your prompts when you have a knowledge base, is how to actually make the agent conduct that prompt and that search as well. And then from here, we have advanced settings. So you can adjust the knowledge base retrieval and chunk similarity. So again, as I said before, when we're splitting everything up inside kind of this chunking process, right here, you can prompt the agent to retrieve only a maximum amount of chunks. So for example, you can have it up to 10 chunks, and then you can have it up to lower chunks, right? So again, I would leave it around, 5 or 6 or something like that. Similarity threshold, adjust how strict the system is when matching chunks to the context. A higher setting gives you fewer but more similar matches. So again, pretty self-explanatory, right? The higher it is, the less matches it is, but the more similar it is, right? So you can see, you can also adjust this as well. So yeah, that's just essentially a quick overview on the knowledge base and how you can update everything. I thought I'd leave this in a separate kind of section for everything, because this is a very important part of our voice AI agents. But again, let's head on to the next section, which is going to be functions and dynamic variables. A very, very important thing to create our agents and bring them to life as well. Okay, now we have completed knowledge base. Let's move on to the next section, number 6, which is going to be functions and dynamic variables. Now, this really includes some of the functions that will allow us to grab some information from the transcript and grab information from retail, such as checking availability, booking appointments, searching up company, knowledge base or information or any API calls. We're going to cover all of that in this section, how to configure it, how to send information over, all of that type of stuff. And then we're also going to be adding in dynamic variables as well into this. So adding personalization to the conversation and how to utilize dynamic variables to enhance our prompts and etc. And I would have covered this a little bit in the prompting section as well, but I thought I'd add it and show you how to add it in retail AI and also what dynamic variables to use and when to use them as well. So of course, I'm going to be adding, covering adding functions, passing dynamic variables, personalization strategies, inbound webhook calling, which is another type of thing that is great, and then real time integration techniques. And then from there, once we've got all the boring stuff out of the way, we're actually going to jump into Make.com, N8N, and Zapier and dive into some real integrations and automations once we know how these functions and dynamic variables work. Go ahead and go into the retail docs right now. So as we can see, dynamic variables is essentially a way to personalize our AI agent responses using kind of these syntax dynamic variables right here. So we can see down here in the overview, again, I would have covered this briefly inside the prompting, but essentially we can put in these, what we call double curly bracket variables or values into the LLM, and it's going to auto populate every single time. And this really just allows us and our AI agent to personalize the conversation more. For example, in these greetings, we could have hello customer name, thank you for calling, right? For example, we could come up here and AI speaks first. We could have hello, this is Emily from Smart Accounting, or we can do, for example, we can say hello name, right? Hello name. How can I help you, right? So again, that is a great use case for using dynamic variables right there. You can have order IDs, departments, etc. You could have all these different things. So it really just could be limitless. And I'll show you actually how to get these dynamic variables and how they actually work as well a little bit later in kind of the automation section, integration section. But essentially, these are just ways that we can, customize our agent and useful things right here. Great use case. So this is called the time right now. This is very useful for a multitude of things, right? Such as appointment booking. So we need to give the LLM or the AI in this case the time that it is right now. And this is going to help for integrations and calling, bookings, checking availabilities, etc. Right? So right now, this is the time in Brisbane, which is the time zone I'm in, and that is going to be used in a dynamic variable. So for example, if we come back over to here, we can actually see, let's see if we can, okay. So we can see default system variables. So for example, right here, these are some of the commonly used variables you can use inside the default system. So we kind of have two different types of variables, right? We have the kind of our personalized variables, right? That we can kind of decide and run information through. And I'll show you how that actually works, right? For example, a little bit later on. And then we also have default system variables. So these are systems default inbuilt in retail, right? So for example, current time, right? That is the current time in America or Los Angeles, right? So if we put this in here, we can put a dynamic variable up in here. We can have the current time, right? I think that was actually for a VAPI prompt. Actually, now that I just think about it, but yeah, you get the thing, right? Current time zone, right? For example, Australia and Sydney. You can copy and paste this, right, and give the agent the current time to refer to inside the book appointment thing, right? So you can give the agent all these dynamic variables and system default system variables to even further personalize it, right? So these are some of the inbuilt ones, right? These are the phone call variables. So we can put these in for phone calls, right? This is very useful for working in automations and outbound phone calls, which is what I'll show you a little bit later on as well. Chat variables. You also have chat variables. So hopefully you kind of understand how these work. Handling missing variables, when a dynamic variable has no assigned value, it will remain its raw form and from the curly brackets intact. So you can see that's how that is going to work in there. And yeah, simply put, that's just a way that we can personalize our prompts. Now, I'll show you how to do all of this, don't worry, later on in the video and how to actually get these variables inside. But the main, point here is to understand how these work. So that'll cover all of that. And then we have the functions up here. So this is the section essentially where we are able to create capabilities within our voice agent. So now that you understand simple agents, complex agents, all the settings, knowledge bases, multi-schedule agent, these are kind of where we can collect information from the transcript and the voice agent and process them and send them to different softwares such as Make or N8N or Zapier in some cases to kind of run some automations that are also outside of retail. So we can see these are the type of different functions. First of all, we have end call, right? Essentially, this is very simple. This is just an end call function that essentially just ends the call of the AI agent. Call transfer. This will be a transfer to a human person, transfer to a number, not a transfer to another AI agent, a human person. So we can see you can give it a name, you can give it a description. Again, in the background, this description is going into the LLM. This is very important to give your agent a concise but descriptive kind of description to let the agent know kind of what it is really. And then transfer, you can have it to a static number or you can have a dynamic routing. So if the user wants to reach support, transfer to this number. If the user wants to reach sales, transfer to this number. So you can have a AI agent supporting multiple transfers, or you could just have it doing a static one number transfer. Obviously, you would put your number in here, whatever type of number you need to transfer. This is very important in a lot of use cases where the agent needs to escalate things. For example, if someone asks, "Can I speak to the manager?" Right, the agent will go ahead and automatically escalate to that number. Right, we use this in a lot of builds. Right, and then this is the type. So this is very important to explain. So an AI transfer will call to the next agent without a debrief. So essentially what that's going to do is, for example, if in like a human setting, right, you might have multiple phone numbers connected to different people. And usually when you would transfer someone, you would say, "Hey, look, I've got this person on the phone. This is what they want. This is what their issue is about, etc." Right? You would kind of brief them on the conversation. A cold transfer is just a straight transfer with no debrief, nothing. Nothing is going to happen. It's going to automatically transfer. This can be good in some use cases, but usually I would put it on a warm transfer, which essentially means that the agent is going to provide a debrief to the next agent for the transferring call. So it's going to say, "Hey, look, I've got this customer on the phone. This is what they want. This is why they're transferring. Here you go, right? Here's the person on the phone, right?" And then we can customize the transfer behavior settings. So we can do it on a ringtone, relaxing sound, upbeat, beating lifts, none. So again, obviously, when you're on hold or you're on transfer, that's going to be the music that's going to be playing and entertaining the user while they debrief them and transfer them to an apartment. Human detection. When enabled, the AI will only debrief if a real human is detected. If not, it will transfer and detect a voicemail or a non-human response. So pretty self-explanatory right there. And then you can also add a timeout as well. Whisper message. If checked, spoken only to the transfer agent. And then three-way message. If checked, spoken after the transfer successful. So both parties can hear. So essentially what these mean, if it is checked, spoken after the transfer is successful, both parties can hear. So essentially it's just going to say, "Hey, look, I've just transferred you, and then everyone can hear. If it's a whisper message, it will only be to the transfer agent, right? Custom SIP headers. Again, this is kind of more complex. I won't really get into this, but again, that's all you kind of need to know to transfer the calls. Again, you will rarely need this. This is kind of more for custom integrations to different types of servers and metadata for transferring numbers. But again, rarely you will use that. Rarely, and these are kind of all the things that you need, right? So that covers transfer calls as well, and then you can do an agent transfer. So essentially the exact same thing, but it's just to an AI agent. So you can have multiple AI agents built into retail, and multiple voice AI agents, and it will transfer as well. So as you can see right here, transfer to another agent to bring in new capabilities and fulfill different tasks. Now, this is very useful in a lot of use cases, right? For example, you could have one agent primarily for lead qualification, right? And the reason why we do this is kind of routes back to my initial point of the complex agents, right? We do not want to have an agent fulfilling too many capabilities because then that will cause it to hallucinate, right? We don't want it to be doing too many tasks or collecting too much information, right? And this is a great tool to use to transfer to different types of agents to make them more, compatible and not, hallucinate as much. So this is a great feature right here, is to transfer to other AI agents. And this process is very, very seamless. It happens very easy within this process, obviously. Again, a good example here, you could have a lead qualification agent that will speak to the customer, define maybe the path it needs to go down to, and then you could transfer to another agent that is, maybe is a appointment booking agent or needs to book appointments and collect a lot of information. So that is a great use case within simple agents to go ahead and transfer to other agents when more, conversational flow is needed and more information is needed. right here. And of course, description. So again, this is just the description of the tool right here. And then you can select the agent inbuilt in retail. So whatever agent you wanted to transfer, you can go ahead and select that. Execution message. So if the function takes over 2 seconds, the agent can say, let me check that for you, right? So essentially, it's just going to speak during execution. For example, it executes it, and then it will say, look, I'm transferring you right now. So that's essentially what that means. Post-call analysis setting. Select which agent's analysis fields to include in the call history. So essentially, when we have these calls, it goes into a database and a call history inside retail. And this will just, allow you to customize the post-call analysis. So only transferred agent will be the only the transferred agent, and then both this agent and the transfer agent. So essentially, both of them are going to show up inside the call history, right? Webhook settings. So select which agent's webhook endpoint you'd like to use for sending call updates. Same thing, right? You can do either both or only the transferred agent. So again, this is a very, very important feature used quite commonly to transfer different agents. Go ahead and delete that. But yeah, very important, obviously, to transfer different agents to fulfill different capabilities to make sure they don't hallucinate. So that's something very important you need to understand. These two right here are just inbuilt, check availability and book on calendars inside cal.com, which is just a infrastructure and scheduling software that is used for like inbuilt in retail. But again, it's just a very simple, process. We don't have to do any, external credentials. You can just put in these credentials right here. But again, this is very useful for demos as well, these two things. But again, cal.com, I believe, is partnered with retail. I'm not sure. But again, this is just an inbuilt calendar function, just like Google Calendar, right? It's inbuilt into these platforms. Vapi has a similar thing with Google Calendar. But yeah, these are just inbuilt functions that don't require as much manual setup, right? Press digit IVR navigation. So essentially, this is like an IVR system. So you can navigate to a human agent or sales department right here. Again, I won't get into too much detail because I haven't really used that, to be honest. Send SMS, pretty self-explanatory. You can have send SMS tools. So you can allow the agent to send SMSs. This is very good on confirmation. This is very good on sending internal notifications to companies and staff members as well. And obviously, you can have the SMS content with the prompt. So this will be prompting the AI agent to send an SMS, or you could have a static sentence. So, whatever you really want, you can send an SMS. Again, I'll show you how to do that and set up your number and everything within Twilio. Extract dynamic variable. So essentially what this is going to be doing is going to be looking through the transcript and the dialogue steps inside the transcription, and it's going to be extracting certain variables and putting them into a dynamic variable. So again, that's what I said previously in the other section, and you can put in descriptions to how to extract those details like name, age, etc. from the conversation, and then you can go ahead and add your variables right here. So yeah, that is all the functions. And really the main use case for this is going to be the custom function. So this will allow us to send customized data to make.com, to Zapier, to N8N, to all these automation platforms. This is really the main use case and the main type of function we will use, which is called a custom function. Now I'm going to run you through, I'll run you through actually an example because it's easier to kind of understand it. Okay, so essentially how this works, if we look in, this is what we call a custom function. So let's go ahead and add it. You can see it blankly. So you can see this is what we call a custom function. So it just allows us to customize the function and the data that's getting sent. So the main use case, as I said here before, is either sending information to Zapier, N8N, or make.com, and we can see how this is configured. So again, we have the appointment name. Very important that you have the same name in your function and you have the same name in your prompt as well, so the agent knows what tool to call. Very important. As you can see, I've got that down here. Appointment, etc. And then the description. Again, this is going into the LLM to let the LLM know what type of tool it is. Very important as well. So again, just a very simple, concise message is fine. This function is used to check availability, book appointments, reschedule appointments, and cancel appointments as well. And then right here, we have the API endpoint, also known as a webhook in this case, in a lot of these no-code and low-code platforms. So essentially how this works is retail gets the information from the transcript that we need. It's going to collect it based on the tool, and then it's going to send that information via a JSON file to this webhook right here. And then once we have that data, we can then create a trigger, and we'll go ahead and trigger the workflow in the backend right there. So that's kind of how that works. And of course, this address is an API endpoint to N8N in this case, a webhook in N8N. And I'll show you later in the video actually how to connect it and how it all works in the demo and everything and all the builds, right? So yeah, right there. That's going to be that, webhook right there. Timeout essentially is just the timeout of how long it takes to call the webhook all the way to the timeout time. So for example, I will call it. It might take 3 seconds, right? You can set the timeout to whatever to time out the webhook, right? That's essentially what that means, right? Headers, query parameters, we don't really need to do that. That's setting it to APIs and URLs. But as we're doing it to a webhook, we need to use JSON. So essentially, JSON is the type of data, type of data collection kind of platform thing that we use to connect to that webhook address. So again, I will actually dive in this later inside the objections section. So essentially, you can do it by form. You can add in the parameter names and then the description and then the string as well. So you can see this is kind of what it looks like. So for example, if you wanted to book an appointment, right, you would need the name or you would need the time, right? So you can add these in. And when the agent notices that you have prompted it, it's then going to collect that information and it's going to send it to that webhook address. So that's how these custom functions work. And the capabilities are really limitless here, depending on the type of agent you want and the task it has to fulfill. You can really do anything and customize the parameters. So that's kind of how the form works and everything, and all the custom functions and variables. So yeah, that covers all the functions we have in the AI agent. Hopefully you kind of understand all of that in depth. And now let's move on to the next section, which is going to be integrations and automation. So we're going to take what we learned from those custom functions. We're going to take what we learned into building the AI agents and understanding them and prompting them. I'm going to take that and then we're going to connect it to make.com and NAN. I'm going to show you 2 use cases and 2 simple kind of scenarios so you can understand how it works. And then we're going to bring it all together and then we'll do a demo of the agent in these practices right there. So I'm going to show you how to actually integrate it as well, and then I'll run an automation so you can see kind of how retail make.com integrates as well. So I'll see you in that next section. Okay, next on our roadmap is going to be number 7, which is going to cover integrations and automations right there. So now that you know how to create your functions and dynamic variables, we need to know how to connect them. So how do we connect them from retail to platforms like Make, and then Zapier and real world automation examples that you can use for demos as well. So if you just go into this, I'm going to be teaching you obviously webhooks because they're a big thing. So understanding webhooks is very crucial. How to connect retail and to Make and NAN, and then also real world examples as well for some of these automations. And then I'll just run you through a quick demo as well and just explain in depth on how the automations work as well. So yeah, let's get right into it. So first of all, before we kind of dive into kind of everything inside retail, we need to understand one basic thing, which is what a webhook is. So essentially, this is a quick diagram that I just found online, and this explains it quite simply. So system A here, imagine this as retail, right? And then in the middle, we use a webhook, which is a way online to send data from another system to another system, right? So if you think about how retail is going to be system A, which is where the voice agent is actually getting created, and then the webhook is what we're using to obviously get the information from retail. And obviously we design this ourselves. I'll show you what that looks like. And then we send that to system B, which will be Make and NAN. I'll show you 2 automation workflows in NAN and Make, and I'll tell you the difference between both of them and kind of which one to use inside your voice agents as well. So, and then from there, this automation will do its thing and how we programmed it, and then it'll provide a response through the body or JSON body in this case, and then it'll come back to system A. And then it will obviously, tell the user and its query. So that's essentially how the webhooks work in short. And let's head over to retail, and I'm going to hop into 2 agents. One here is an agent using make.com, and then the other agent is an agent using NAN. So you can kind of understand how, it connects to both platforms, and then also the automation features for each platform and kind of some of the use cases as well. So let's come into this agent right here, and we can see opened up. So again, we've got the prompt in here. You should know by now how prompting works and all of that. And again, we will go into real world use cases for inbound and outbound agents in the next section. But I thought I'd just have this as its own section of automations and understanding everything on the automation side, and then we can go into actually building 2 agents, which is going to be an inbound and outbound. But I'll get into that later. Essentially, right here, these are the functions. So as I said in the last section, I kind of went in depth about all this type of stuff. Now I'm going to show you how to connect this function. So essentially, this is a book appointment function. Description: this tool is used to book the appointment. After the time after the time, check availability with the customer's availability. API endpoint, this is going to be the webhook. So again, just as I said right here, this is the webhook body, and essentially we can use that webhook address to send information to. And in this case, we can do that through an automation platform through make.com. So this first custom function right here is a book appointment run. So this would what is our book appointment right here. Don't worry about that error. I'll show you a demo of this, but this could be an example of a book appointment, right? And as we can see, the data that it's sending are these variables right here. So it's sending that inside a JSON and in a webhook body URL, and it's sending that over to trigger, make.com right there. So again, it's got obviously the service type, the service address, the requested time, and the email. This is for a plumbing company at the moment. And you can prompt the agent to collect different types of things inside the prompt. But these are all the variables that it's going to get sent over. So if we actually see, we can see if we go into arguments, so we can see that requested time is going to be a variable, right? So we can kind of see, again, I'll run through a demo of how this works. But you can see kind of how this webhook right here and retail is going to send some information over via a request through a webhook, through JSON body, to then go over to make.com. So this is what a make.com automation would look like. And we can use make.com and then I'll explain the difference after and when to use both and what I actually prefer with each platform after we've covered both of them and, an example automation. But essentially, this function right here is just going to book appointments, right? So that's all the variables that it has collected from that transcript. It's sent it over by a webhook JSON body. It's put it into make.com. Make.com is going to process the automation and then it's going to send it back. So that's essentially, I just wanted to make sure you understood everything around there. Now you've understood that book appointment, let's go into the check availability. So again, it's quite similar, same thing. You can create these custom functions really simple, have the name, have the description, have the webhook address. In this case, it's going to be make. And then obviously we have that parameter, which is going to be that requested time of the customer. So you can kind of see how we can put together these voice agents and these functions and everything. So now I'm going to show you kind of a demo and a test run of how an automation works in both make.com and N8N. So you can kind of get an idea on how all this works. So we've covered webhooks, and then now we're going to cover connecting the workflow. So of course you connect it via a webhook right there. And then we can kind of go through these automations inside Make, and that'll cover this section really. So let's go ahead and test this. Let's test it by audio.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey, how you going? I was just looking to see, do you have any availability for tomorrow at 3 p.m.?
Thanks for asking. I'm doing well. So you're after an appointment tomorrow at 3 p.m. Yes, we do have that slot available. Can I grab your full name, phone number, email, and the address where you need the plumbing service?
Sure, it's Ashton Voss. My email is ashton123@gmail.com. My phone number is 12345678. 9,
Thanks, Ashton.
9, 10,
And
and my address is 1234 Main Drive.
Great, thanks, Ashton. Just to confirm, your full name is Ashton Voss. Your phone number is 123456789110. Your email is ashton123@gmail.com, and the address is 1234 Main Drive. Could you please let me know what plumbing issue you need help with tomorrow at 3 p.m.?
Yeah, it was a leaky tap. Awesome. So you can see how in real time it went ahead and booked the appointment. So it went ahead and checked the availability, and then it went to the automation software right here and then booked the appointment. So let's dive into this automation right now. So first of all, of course, that webhook we have at the moment for check availability, that webhook address right here is connected to this module, which is what we call it inside Make. So essentially, Make is kind of a linear automation platform that allows us to connect these different modules inside of it, such as, webhooks, OpenAI, Google Calendar, and we can make, these automations, and it can connect to businesses' calendars and integrations. So that's how we can exactly do that within this software. So the first module right here for this automation specifically is going to be the webhook. So that's going to be the same webhook address right there that we have inside retail. So that's how we can connect it. And then from there, it's going to contact OpenAI, and it's going to get a booking time. So again, this is going to be in GMT, plus 10 time. And essentially, what we need to do here is we need to convert this conversational time to a time that the automation can understand. So that's what we're doing in this module right here, because the module is not going to understand tomorrow at 1 p.m., right? It needs to have a set time, and we use that, and we do that through ISO 861 format. So this is this module right here, as you can see, the requested time. All right, awesome. So that's going to be that module right there. And then this is going to be the module where it's going to check availability inside a calendar. Now, of course, if you were doing this for a business, you would need to have their integrations and their APIs for this as well. But in this demo and example, I'm just using a Google Calendar. So this is the node where it's going to check availability inside a calendar. We can see right here, it's using that time that it's gotten from that OpenAI. And then it's also going ahead and adding 60 minutes into that slot, and it's just checking availability, right? And then from there, it's going to check if it's available. So if it is available, it's going to check, yes, is it available? It's going to go down this path, and it's going to respond to that webhook. So it's just going to respond right here to that webhook. Don't worry about that tool call ID. That's for a VAPI type of thing. But yeah, it's going to respond to that webhook. As we can see, if we look at this diagram, automation's process, and it's responding to the webhook, right? So you can kind of see how this is all stringing together, right? And then this particular automation, right? If it's not available, it's going to come down this path, and it's going to look for more available slots. So again, it's setting that variable, and then it's going to look for more available slots within that time frame within the day. It's going to transform it to JSON, which just allows us to make an easier, contact module inside Make. And then it's just going to convert that time to GMT plus 10, find alternative times, generate a message, and then respond to the webhook. So you can see it's very, very simple inside Make. And this is a very simple automation that we can use to check availability, and then also check availability for more slots and have a fallback process right here. So that's kind of how that all works inside make.com. And that's going to be that first automation, right? If we come back to the book appointment, quite similar, right? It's even more simple, right? We're using that webhook that we have connected inside retail, and then we're triggering that automation, which is going to trigger the automation, by the way. It's going to create an event with all my details inside there, and then it's going to send a confirmation email, and then it's going to send an SMS to the business or the customer, and then it's going to respond to the webhook. So as we go back to this chart, very similar. A lot of that automation is happening inside System B, and then it's coming out and it's responding to the webhook. So that's just a general overview of Make.com and the workflow. And the difference between Make.com and N8N is Make is more of a linear automation platform. So if we come to N8N, we can see that it's quite different, right? We have Make right here, which is kind of, a more linear, logical type of thing, right? You can still have agents, but we can now in N8N have, nodes, and we can have more agentic workflows in that sense, right? We can build of AI agents, and we can we have more scalability, and we have also more variability as well, and it's quite more efficient as well, which is what I'll get into later in the pricing and Make and the breakdown and connecting the webhooks. So now let's come over to N8N, and I'll show you kind of the connections in there. So if we come back out to retail, let's go down to um let's see. All right, I'm gonna go down to this one right here. Again, this is going to be the template that I have for this type of automation. And we can see it's quite similar, right? But I thought I'd add in this in N8N because they're two kind of different type of things, right? That first one was two functions. Instead, we have one function here, which is just going to be primarily a appointment function. So this appointment function now is able to handle, updating, canceling, getting appointments, and rescheduling as well. So I'll run you through this automation, and then we can kind of group back together and just see which one or which platform is really the best for our specific type of agent, right? So again, quite similar right here. Our function, I've got the appointment name, we've got the description, we've got the webhook in N8N, and then we've also got all the parameters as well. So you should have a good understanding of how this all works. Again, we have a bit more, parameter names here. We look in the JSON, we've got the action type, we've got the email availability time, the name, the phone number, the reschedule time, and reason. Of course, I'm going to leave all these templates, everything that I've used, functions, everything down below in the link in the description, so you can go ahead and use that. But essentially, that's what's going to be happening in here. All right, so let's actually go ahead and do a chat right here, and we can test everything out. So we'll do hello. Do you have at 3 p.m., right? We can see, hopefully it will call. So let me check that for you. Okay, yeah, it needs a day. Yeah, sorry, it needs a day, obviously. Tomorrow, please. And it'll come in. See here, you can see how it's going to contact that agent, check availability. It's going to come down, and then it's going to respond to the webhook. So it's quite similar to Make. And I thought I'd show you another example in there also. So again, it noticed that it actually wasn't available. So then it suggested, more slots. But yeah, you can kind of see how this agent would work. So let's actually dive into this workflow quickly. And I'll explain the differences between N8N and Make.com as well. So first of all, we have that workflow trigger. Essentially the exact same as Make.com, but it's just in N8N format. And then we've got the time there, and then we've got the action, right, which is to check availability. So that's going to be that trigger right there. And then right here, we have the main head agent, which is going to, schedule, all of these different types of things right here, which is going to be able to check availability, update appointments, book appointments as well, and also cancel. So if we come in here, this is going to be our prompt as well. So it's quite different to N8N, right? We have one main agent here that is kind of the main agentic agent that has access to all these nodes and also has access to these post-call agent, which is able to send confirmation, enter details into databases, etc. So if we come in here, this is going to be our prompt for our AI agent. And I won't dive into this too much in detail because I'm going to be diving that into, the next section, which is going to be building inbound and outbound agents. Essentially, what's happening inside this workflow right here is we have an agent and we've prompted it using some of the webhook and, everything that we've used in the previous webhook right here. And that agent now will have access to check availability, update appointments, and everything. So if we come in here, you can see what it's done, right? It's come through, it's defined the start time, it's defined the end time, and it's checked availability inside a calendar, right? And we can see if we prompt the agent, we can see right here, if it is if the action is a check availability right here, which it was, it's then going to do this, right? And it's going to be the same thing for booking, canceling, and rescheduling. And then obviously it will contact all of those separate nodes to fulfill that task, right? So you can see how this automation is a little bit different than Make. It's more agentic, right? And then down here we have a post-call agent, which is, I won't really get into, but essentially, I've done a whole video on this template if you do want to check it out. But essentially this post-call agent just sends emails and enters, emails in the database, which is quite similar to Make. So that's really the main difference. Now, getting onto what is best. Now, I think me personally, I think N8N is probably better. Number one, it is, substantially cheaper. If you do it on a self-hosted version, I'm using a cloud version at the moment. But if you do it on a self-hosted version, you can get it down to as low as $5 to $7 USD per month. Compared to Make.com, which is around $15. And Make.com has limitations in its plans as well. You only get, I believe, 10,000 operations on the base model. N8N self-hosted is unlimited for $5 USD. So I think the pricing is clearly cheaper between Make and N8N. I think N8N is a better option in terms of pricing and affordability. And then also, complexity, efficiency, ease of creation as well. I think N8N is just ahead of Make.com in its time. But both platforms are still very good. I think Make.com has more integrations. I believe so. But overall, I think N8N is better, and you should learn really both platforms. Obviously, quite in depth. But yeah, you should learn both platforms. But I think N8N is the better use case. We have more reliability, scalability. It's also more affordable as well. And it's just easier for us to create workflows because we can create it in kind of these agentic type of things. We've got these agents here which we can add. We've got these nodes and tools. So I think, in my opinion, NN is better, and I think it's the best option, and it's also cheaper as well. So that's kind of my standpoint on where to use that. Depending on where you need to use both, right? I think Make is more beginner friendly right here, but NNN's a little bit more technical in that sense. Both platforms work extremely well. I would learn both, but I would prefer N8N if I'm being honest. But yeah, that's kind of that overview on both of those platforms. So we now know how the functions, the dynamic variables work, and then how we can connect and process those workflows as well. So now let's move on to the next section, which is going to be the fun one, which is about creating these AI agents. So I'm going to be taking you through inbound, outbound, and then also a demo of both those agents, and we're going to be building them live from scratch as well. So yeah, I'm going to see you in that next section. So the first thing you want to do is you want to come up to the Create Agent tab up here, create a voice agent. And then from there, we need to select a single prompt agent. This is going to be for the simple agents that, appointment booking, searching up information, etc. So let's go ahead and create that template from scratch right there. Awesome. So we're going to log into this dashboard right here. And then from there, we're going to need a prompt, and we're going to need also some functions, which we're going to send some information to N8N to process, to check availability, to send some confirmation emails, etc. So we're going to show you everything in that. So let's first of all give the agent a name. Let's go ahead and name it YT Retail Demo, right? Whatever you want to name your agent, that is going to be the place for that there. Then from here, we have the agent ID, which is essentially the specific agent ID inside retail for this agent. This is very useful. In workflows such as N8N, Make.com, creating outbound calls as well. The LLM ID, again, is very similar. It's just going to be the specific LLM inside retail for this agent. The cost, this is the cost of our voice agent, and then we've got the latency here as well, which essentially is the time for how long the agent takes to respond to the customer as soon as they start speaking. So that's just some of the settings up here. Again, I won't go too in depth. The main thing we're going to be focusing on is the prompt right here. But before we get into that, we can touch on a few of these settings up here. This setting is going to be the LLM. So what is going to be the brain behind our agent, right? And you can customize this for GPT-5. You can customize this for Claude. You can customize this for Gemini. You can customize this for a bunch of different things. But in this example, we're just going to be using GPT 4.1. And then from there, we have the voice configuration. So this is going to be 11 labs, right? So we can choose between 11 labs, OpenAI, Cartesia. However, I would recommend using 11 labs. Again, you can select all the different types of voices. You can select the voice ID, the trait, the voice, and all these different things, right? We can also use gender, accent. We can filter by those variables in there, and that'll bring us the voices that we choose. But of course, I'm just going to be using this as the default voice. And then from here, it's going to be the main language of our agent. So is it English? Is it Spanish, multilingual, French, Chinese, etc.? But in this example, I'm just going to be choosing English, right? We're going to need a prompt for our voice AI agent. Essentially, this prompt is going to define the agent's role, what it's going to be doing in the conversation, how it's going to be speaking, and all those different things. So this is very important to get your prompt right so you can define what the AI agent is going to be doing in the conversation. Now, the first part of our prompt is going to be a role. So this role in this case is going to be for a med spa. Of course, for the purpose of this demo and example, you can choose whatever you want. I've just chosen a med spa right here. So you can see an example of how a prompt may look in a real world business right here. So we can see your name is Emily. You're a friendly, professional, and efficient administrative assistant in Glow Spa Clinic, a luxury med spa specializing in facials, massage therapy, laser treatment, injectables, and skin consultations. You're the first point of contact for your clients calling in, and your goal is to make every client feel welcome, valued, confident in their appointment that will be handled smoothly. So we can see right here, this role is basically defining the persona of the agent, where it is working in the business. In this case, it's going to be an administrative assistant. And then also some of the services they offer. So again, defining the role, defining the persona, and defining a little bit of context about the business as well. So that's going to be the first part, which is going to be our role. And then from there, we're going to need the task. So what is the agent going to be doing in the conversation? What is its main task? What is its main goal right here? And by the way, these little asterisks or hashtags up here is what we call markdown formatting. It essentially allows the AI to see this prompt a little bit better. These are called headings right here. So if you imagine what a text would be like, it would be a heading in there. So we can see it's going to be a heading and then normal text for the role, a heading, and then normal text for the task. So that's what we call these little asterisks here. If you're wondering, it's called markdown format. And then the task, your primary task is to efficiently schedule new appointments for clients seeking med spa services. So that's going to be the main task of the agent. And then from there, we will use something what we call chain of thought prompting. So essentially, this is what it looks like, right? So essentially, it just means chain of thought prompting, which is going to be guiding the AI through a step-by-step process on how to conduct the conversation. And within this chain of thought prompting, we can use different tool runs, function runs, how to book appointments, check availability, collect information. So that's really the best use case for guiding the AI agent on how to conduct the conversation. So right here, task, your primary task is to efficiently schedule new appointments for clients seeking med spa services. So number one is going to be initial greeting and inquiry. Greet the caller warmly, professionally, creating a welcoming first impression, and then politely ask how they can assist them and carefully listen to their needs. Clarify the type of service they are interested in. For example, is it a facial, massage, laser treatment, injectable, skin consultation? Whatever, right? So we can see this is how we're going to be guiding the AI through the first part of the conversation. Then step 2 is going to be appointment scheduling. So ask for their preferred date and time for the appointment and run the check availability function to find available slots. Suggest 2 to 3 options to the client, emphasizing a 1-hour duration for standard sessions. If none of the suggested times work, ask the client for an alternative time and then rerun the check availability. So again, this is a little bit of prompt engineering. If the AI agent doesn't find an available time initially through that first search, it's then going to go back and rerun the check availability function to then find an available time. Step 3 is going to be confirmation and closing. Clearly restate the confirmed appointment details with the date, time, and type of treatment to the client. Ask if there is anything else you can assist them with before politely ending the call. Confirm that the client will receive a confirmation email, and then your ability to quickly and efficiently schedule appointments contributes to the client's satisfaction and overall clinic efficiency. So again, you can see how I've used that step-by-step chain of thought prompting from the initial greeting and inquiry all the way to the confirmation and closing. So just really capturing as much of that conversational process inside this section of our prompt, which is going to be the task. And then from there, we're going to need the example conversation. So this is very useful within our AI agents to help guide the AI agent how to conduct an example conversation, how a conversation might go. So we can give a little bit of context to the agent previously before the customer has even called the phone. So we can see right here, this is an example conversation that has just been generated, obviously. And we can see there's a few key things. 1 is letting the AI agent know how to conduct a conversation. And 2, letting the AI agent know when to call those tools. So when to call the check availability, when to call the book appointment, when to call all these different types of tools. So we can see right here, we have the run book appointment tool. So letting the AI agent know when to run the book appointment. And then overall, this conversation is just a general overview on how a conversation might go. So that's really, that's really important for our voice AI agent prompt. And then finally, we've got a little bit of context about the business. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in. And of course, if you do want this prompt, go ahead to my free resource hub, download it. It'll all be in there. So again, giving a little bit of context to the agent about the business. Right here, we've got the current time. This is what we call a dynamic variable inside retail AI. Of course, for your time zone, you can change it here. If it was America, Los Angeles or America, Chicago, or whatever time zone you're in, you need to make sure you're changing this. And this is really important to give the AI agent the current time because it helps with processing the book appointments. It makes sure that all the times are in the future, and it makes sure that the agent correctly processes all of the booking information as well. So we can see that's very important up there. And then the second step, Glow Spa Make Clinic, is a luxury wellness center and beauty center. So again, just giving a little bit of context about the business, and kind of their mission statement as well, and the brand details, etc. All appointment slots are typically 1-hour sessions. So again, a little bit more prompt engineering. Never book appointments in the past. So yeah, you kind of get it. That's a little bit of the context. And then lastly is going to be the final notes. So conversation guidelines. These are just, the final icing on the cake to make our voice agent sound conversational. So we can see conversation guidelines. Use everyday conversational language. Keep responses short and natural, 2 to 3 sentences max. Use the client's name throughout the conversation, then add natural speech fillers. So again, this part is just reiterating to the voice agent to sound natural and conversational. So yeah, this is going to be our prompt right here. So let's go ahead and click save. And of course, you'll get this prompt completely for free in my free resource hub. Just go ahead and paste it in. It'll all work. And then from here, we're going to change the welcome message to AI speaks first. Then we're going to do custom message right here. Hello, how can I help you today? We'll just do hello. This is Emily, from Glow Spa Med Clinic. We'll just copy and paste that. How can I help you today? Right. So this is going to be the first static message that is going to be presented to the customer as soon as they call inside the med clinic. So that's going to be what the agent is saying each time we call it. Just fix up those spelling issues. Awesome. So yeah, that's going to be the first static message that is going to be saying each time. So let's go ahead, make sure that's all good. And then from there, we're going to need the function. So this is where we're going to be processing a check availability and then also a book appointment as well. Let's go ahead and add that right now. First of all, we're going to go ahead and click add custom function down here in the bottom. And then we're going to need a few configurations in here to make this happen. So essentially what's happening in the background is within our prompt, we're telling the agent when to run the functions. And then from there, the agent's going to be collecting different information from the transcript, and it's going to be sending it via JSON to our automation platform, such as NADN and Make.com. So name right here, let's name it check availability right there. And then description to check the slots of the calendar. calendar. All right, awesome. So again, this description is going into the LLM, telling the agent what the purpose of this tool is for. And then from there, we're going to need an API endpoint. So this is where we're going to head over to N8N right here. You want to create a new workflow inside your N8N account, create workflow. And then from there, you want to add the first step. So the first step is going to be a webhook trigger. So again, this webhook is going to be receiving that information that we have collected from retail to then process the check availability. So we're going to put this webhook here, and then I'm going to grab this test URL, but we need to make sure this is on post method first, and then also this response method, we're going to leave it to immediately now, but when we've finished the overall workflow, we need to change it to using response webhook node, right? So, but for now, obviously, because we're putting some test data in and we're building this from scratch, we'll just leave it from immediately right there, right? So go ahead and copy and paste that test URL. And by the way, the difference between both of these URLs is the test URL can only be activated upon a trigger inside N8N. And then the production URL is for obviously production-ready workflows that will run automatically without having to execute the workflow. But we're going to be using a test URL in this example so you can see how to map out the data and build out everything, right? All right, so we'll go ahead and paste that in right here into the API endpoint. So that's going to be our webhook address right there. And then from here, we need to have some parameters. So again, I'm going to be using the form option in this one, but essentially reiterating what I said before is it's just sending that information via JSON, via objects, right? But retail makes it really easy. We can just add in a form. So for the check availability, what type of data may we need? So we might just need the time of the customer, right? So we can just do time. And then we'll do the requested time of the customer. Change that right there. Okay, so we can see that's going to be the description. Again, that description is going into the LLM, right? All right, perfect. So from there, that will be all good to go. Let's go ahead and click save right there. Invalid tool name. Okay, so we just need to make sure we have a space. Of course, make sure this is all one word. That's my bad up there. Yep, so that'll work. Awesome. So let's go ahead and save that right here. So now let's test the agent, and we can put some test data in that workflow to build out everything right here. Let's say, hello, do you have tomorrow at 3 p.m., right? We'll go ahead and put some test data in there. Let's come back to the workflow. Let's execute it. We can come back to retail, click send. It's going to put some test data inside this workflow. Awesome. So now we can continue to build out this agent with the test data we have in here. So if we come to the schema and we can see that is that test data with that time right there with the argument name right there. So now we can put in this data to then further process the availability, right? So now let's go ahead and add in an AI agent. I'm going to go to define below. And we're going to need a prompt right here. And of course, I'm just going to be using a template that I've already got. And I'm going to be showing you this prompt and running through everything. So right here, I'm going to be pasting this prompt. If you do want this prompt, make sure to go down to my free resource hub and everything will be in there. So we can see the purpose of this AI agent is just to simply check the availability in the calendar, right? And we're going to need to prompt the agent how to check the availability in N8N. So this is exactly what this prompt is doing, right? We have a role. You're an appointment availability checker. Your job is to get the requested time and use the calendar to check availability for the customer. Your current date and time is now. So again, this is what we call, just a JSON right here inside N8N. This is an inbuilt feature. So we can see if we go, that's going to get the current time within the system, right? So we can use that current time, and then we can use the customer's requested time and prompt the agent on how to check the availability. Calendar data, so working hours, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., right? So letting the AI agent know the available slots of the agent. Length of each slot, 1 hour. Booking process. So this is going to be how the agent is going to book the calendar. So check if the customer's requested time is available using the calendar. If the time is available, let the AI model know and confirm to it. And then if the time is unavailable, suggest up to 2 alternative slots close to the requested time by checking the availability again. If there are no request slots upon checking within that day, search within the next weekday from the current time and then provide alternative slots. Response and output. So after the AI agent has successfully executed the booking process, we're then going to need to prompt the agent on how to get its response, right? If the requested time is available, confirm to it by saying, for example, the requested time of 10 a.m. June 22nd is available. Just to confirm, would you like to book this, right? So again, a little bit of prompt engineering on how to, conduct the output and the response of the agent. And then from here, we've got important notes. So you must not output your result in the past, always check availability in the future, and then use the current time you have received and the requested data to help make that decision. Your ability to follow these steps is precisely your ability to follow these steps precisely is very crucial and can impact the business's reputation. So you can see this is going to be our prompt right here. And that's going to be all good right there. And then from there, we need to add in a chat model. So what is going to be the brain behind this workflow, helping the AI agent decide what to do? And in this model, we're just going to be using OpenAI. Add that language model right there. And then we're going to need to connect an account. Now, I've already connected an account, but I will show you how to actually connect an account. So what you want to do is you want to head over to the OpenAI developer platform. Right, awesome. So make sure you log into the platform in OpenAI in the API keys. And then you want to create a new secret key up here. So again, I'm just going to be naming this, right, N8N up the top. And then I'm just going to create a new secret key. And it's going to give us this long line of API keys. We're going to click copy, come back to our N8N workflow, and then paste in everything right there. Awesome. So that's all pasted in. And then we're going to click out. And then from here, we can select the model. Now, because this is a fairly simple task, we're just going to be using GPT 4.1 mini right here. Let's go ahead and select that, come back to the canvas, and that's going to be all good. So now we have our OpenAI brain and model connected to the agent. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a tool. So this tool is going to be a check availability tool. Now, of course, if you're working within a business, you would go ahead and connect to their tools via a module or an API request. But in this example, I'm just going to be using a Google Calendar because this is a demo, of course. So let's go ahead and do Google Calendar right here. And then from there, we're going to need to configure a few things. So obviously, make sure you connect your Google account. Just go ahead and sign in with Google right there. It's an inbuilt sign-in feature that we have. But of course, I've already connected my account because I don't need to do that. Tool description set automatically. Resource is going to be an event. A calendar. And then the operation is going to be availability. Calendar is going to be from your calendar right here with your email. And then start time will let the model define. And then end time will also let the model define. And the reason we can do that is because we have prompted the AI agent to do so, and the AI agent is smart enough and will already know what to do in that scenario. Perfect. And then from there, let's go ahead and add in our webhook response. So webhook response down here, and then we're going to need first incoming item. And then from here, we're going to go back to this webhook, and we're going to change it to using response webhook node. So now this will be all good to go and process some check availability inside the calendar, and then it'll also return other slots as well. So let's go ahead and name this workflow. We'll just name it check slots, YT demo retail, right? Go ahead and give it a name, click save. And of course, I'm going to be giving you this workflow for free, so you can just implement it inside your account. Right, awesome. That's going to be all good from there. And then let's go back over to retail and let's add in the next function. So this function is going to be a book appointment function. So let's come down to custom function again. We're going to name it, and we're going to name it book appointment right there. Description: to book a appointment, business's calendar. Awesome, right? So to book the appointment on the business calendar, and then the API endpoint, very, very similar to our previous workflow. We're going to be coming back into N8N, creating a new workflow in there, and then adding a first step. Of course, it's going to be that webhook, right? And the reason why we do this is so we get some data in to build out that workflow. Starts when the webhook is called. That's going to be our trigger. Make sure we have it to post, respond. We'll just leave it as immediately. Get that test URL, come back into this post section right here. And that's all we're going to need in there. And then from here, forms. So because this is a little bit different, we're going to need a few parameters, right? So first of all, we're going to need the name. So we're going to need the name. And then the description, pretty simple. Name of the customer. From here, email, right? So we're going to need the email to also process the booking. And this relates back to our prompt, prompting the agent what to collect in the conversation. So email of the customer. And then here is going to be, I believe, the service type. So the service type. So the service type behind that customer. Is it a facial? Is it a massage? What is it, right? The type of service. Some extra information in there. And then from there, we're going to need the confirm time, right? So we can't use the same time before. We need a confirm time, because if that requested time previously in the next function comes back as unavailable, we can't use that time. We're going to need a confirm time, right? we'll just prompt it time actually, and then we can put in the description the confirmed time. The confirmed time for the appoint. And then we'll just put after the slots have been checked. All right, awesome. So now we have everything all good to go. And let's go ahead and click save up here. Let's make sure that's all good. Okay, save. Awesome. Now, where of course it's going to be asking for everything. We'll just do, can we do a facial? You can see, just checking availability. All right, so let's go ahead and X out of this and let's run a new chat. Let's activate this workflow. You can see how that's going to work. And let's also activate this workflow to get some test data in there so we can build out the final workflow, right? Let's go, hello. Do you have slots for tomorrow at 3 p.m.? It's going to come in. It's going to check this availability in the calendar. We can see successfully checking it. Let's see what it returns. You can see, yes, we do have a slot tomorrow at 3 p.m. Can we do a massage? And it's going to ask for some more details. And then, yep, so email, that's all it's going to need. Let's send that in. And then we're going to put some data inside this workflow. All right, having a little bit of trouble there. Looks like, would you like me to take on any reservations? Yeah, so this sometimes might happen in retail because we have a timeout on the workflow. So let's prompt it to try again. And then we should get some data in here. Yep, awesome. So yeah, sometimes that happens is if the workflow or if the execution runs too long, it won't actually call it properly. That's just the configuration issue. But after we've got both these workflows, we can switch it to a production URL, which is what I'll show you at the end. But yeah, you just got to refresh it. And then from there, we're going to add the AI agent just like before. We'll add define below, and then we're going to need a prompt and user message right here. So again, prompting the agent on how to handle a book appointment in this case. So we're going to put this in here, and that's going to be our prompt. So you are an appointment booking AI agent. Your job is to use the create event in Google Calendar, and you must get the details of the customer to create a new event/booking in the calendar. The confirmed time is this. So that's going to be the confirmed time, which is going to be that right there. So we can just see, let's just put in that time again so you can see how it maps it back. That's going to be the confirmed time, of course. And the appointment duration will be 1 hour. So prompting the agent on how to handle that booking and add 1 hour. So simply add 1 hour to the confirmed time, use the confirmed time as the start time, and then simply add 1 hour onto the confirmed time to get the end time, right? So just prompting the agent on how to handle that. If the event has been scheduled, please provide your output in this format. And then we're giving an example on how to provide its output, and then send email. You will also send an email tool to send a confirmation email to the customer that their appointment has been booked. So we're also going to be adding a confirmation email to send after the booking has been processed. So let's come out, and then we're going to add the chat model again. Again, let's add OpenAI. Again, you've already connected your account, so you won't need to connect it again in this workflow. And then from there, we're going to add 2 tools, right? We're going to add a Google Calendar book event tool, and then we're also going to add a Gmail tool to send a email to the customer, right? So we're going to add Google Calendar, and then we'll do event create from calendar will just be my calendar. Start and end time, let the AI model define. And then we're going to add 2 things right here. We're going to add a description. So again, this is going to be some of the appointment details, such as the service type, the time, etc., the name of the customer, and this will be put inside the description of the Google Calendar, right? So let's go ahead and add in this right here. So let's do name, name. Want to open this up actually. Name, time, email, and then we'll do type, right? Change this. Right, so now let's map in that data that we have from that webhook right here. So come down, and then we're going to put name in there. I think I'm just going to have to configure this data. Oh. All right, name, type. It's going to be the service type. Time is going to be that, and then the email is going to be that, right? Awesome. So now that's going to show up in the in the description. So that's exactly what it's going to look like, right? All right, awesome. And then from there, let's add a summary. So this is going to be the title of the event, right? And we can just do new appointment for, and then we can put the name again, so you can see how we can customize these fields for each booking. And then we'll just do at the time, right? At that time, right? Awesome. So this will be all good to go. That will work. Let's come back to the canvas. Let's add one more tool, which is going to be a send confirmation email after the booking has been complete. So let's go down to Gmail tool. Obviously, you want to connect your Gmail account. Just sign in with Google. Pretty simple right there. And then from there, we're going to do message, send, and then to, right? And then the to email is going to be this email right here, right? That's going to be that email. The subject will just be appointment booking confirmation, right? Appointment booking confirmation. And then we can just do like for whatever the name is. And then we'll just do at the time right there. Right, so that's what the subject is going to look like. Just fix up these little spaces in here. Okay, awesome. All good. So then let's do text right here, message, and then we'll just say hello, name. So you can see how we can customize this quite easily. This is a confirmation email that your appointment for a massage has been successfully booked at time. And we can just see we look forward to there, right? Awesome. I'm just do glow spa. Right, so now the agent will successfully send this email as a confirmation email, right? Fix up that error. All right, awesome. So let's go back to Canvas. And the final thing we're going to need to do is just add in that response webhook node. So we come back here, respond to webhook, and then we'll do first incoming item, and then we'll change this to response using webhook node. All right, awesome. So now we have everything built out. And the final thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to grab these production URLs. Let's come back to retail and we're going to change it in. So now that we've used the test URL, we've built out everything, we know it works, right? Let's come back to retail AI and let's swap in these production URLs for these test URLs. So now when we call the agent, we're not going to need to execute everything, right? Let's make sure we go ahead and click update on each of these things. Got the production URL. Let's come back. Let's switch it to active, right? Got it. And then it's saved right here. Let's name it. We'll do book appointment. All right. Retail wide. All right. Awesome. So let's go ahead. So that will work now. We can switch it to the executions tabs and we can see the executions. Let's come back to the check availability. Let's do the same thing. Production URL. Grab it. Come back here. Paste it in here. Paste that in. Update. And then we'll come back. Switch it to active. Got it. All right. So now let's give the agent a final test with a ring. And we can see everything and we can see the executions. And then you can see it's going to book it inside this Google Calendar right here. So, all right. So now let's go ahead and test the agent and we can see what we've built.
Hello, this is Emily from Glow Med Spa Clinic. How can I help you today?
Hey, how you going, Emily? Look, I'd just like to book in a appointment for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Do you have any slots then?
Hey, thanks for asking. I'm doing well. So you'd like to book an appointment for tomorrow at 2 p.m. That slot is available. What service were you hoping to book in for?
I would like to do a facial. My name is Ashton Voss, and my email is ashtonvoss47@gmail.com.
Thanks, Ashton. Your facial is all booked for tomorrow, October 8th at 2 p.m. You'll get a confirmation email shortly. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
All right, awesome. So you can see it successfully checked the availability in the calendar, and then it went ahead and created the event and then sent the email right there. So yeah, we can come back to the Google Calendar and we can see that it's got all of the requirements in the description. It's got the summary. It's successfully booked it for 2 p.m. So yeah, that's a beginner's guide on how to use retail AI and end-to-end to create your first voice AI agents there will check availability and book appointments. So first thing that we need to create this voice AI agent is going to be a form. Now in this case, I'm going to be using Go High Level to create this form, but if you are using, Wix, WordPress, a website builder, we're going to need a form to then be able to send via a webhook to create an outbound call. And then we're going to be using Retail AI to create a voice AI agent to converse with the customer. So first of all, again, I'm using Go High Level to create a form. So you're going to need a platform that allows you to create a form and then a way in sending that information via webhook to Make. But yeah, essentially, let's get into it. So first of all, I'm just going to pick a form right here. We can just do a generic contact us form right here. Again, in this example, I'm going to be using a real estate agency, but it could really just be any business, as businesses really need those things. But yeah, this could be, an appraisal or a free appraisal form right here. So this is all we really need to do, but we just need to make sure that we have the unique key so then we can map it back in. So again, I'll just create this form and I'll just name it, demo up here. Click save on that. Go to back. And now once we have created that form, so whenever someone submits that form, we're going to need to send it via webhook to make.com. So first of all, I'm just going to go over to the workflow list, which is essentially an automation, software or automation section within High Level. So we can then go ahead and create an outbound form. So I'm just going to click start from scratch and I'll show you exactly how I can build this automation. So first of all, head over and create a form. So when form is submitted, we'll do form is, select forms, contact us form right there, and click save. And then from there, we're going to need to send that information via webhook. So we'll do custom webhook, and then we're going to need a URL in this case. So now we need to go head over to Make, and we can start building this automation to then create an outbound phone call by a retailer. All right, so I'm in Make right now. This is this platform I'm going to be using. This is the automation platform I'm going to be using. So just go ahead and click create new scenario. And the first module we're going to need, which is a webhook right here. So custom webhook. So again, triggering as soon as it has data to trigger that workflow. And we'll just name it Go High Level to Retail webhook. All right, click save on that. And from there, now we have that webhook address that we can now copy and send over to Go High Level. So paste that in right there, and then that should be all good to go. Now we're going to need to customize this a little bit to make sure that we send the right information. So first of all, I'm going to add one more thing, which is also going to be on the form. So again, making sure that this information is sending over via webhook. So contact, we'll just go to contact. If you remember, that is going to be that custom value in that form right there. So now it's going to be sending whatever they put in that description. In this case, it could be an appraisal. They could be sending their house type or whatever, right? So yeah, right. So these are going to be the custom values that we need within inside this webhook. So of course, we've got the ID, which is the contact ID. I've got High Level, we've got the name. Obviously, this is going to be all the information that they've just filled out via the form. We've got the contact phone number, which is in raw format, which we need to make sure that it's in raw format. So again, if you are using Go High Level, again, you can sign up for a completely free 30-day trial as well with Go High Level. You're going to need to make sure you have this variable right here to allow the voice AI agent to use that international country code format to then make that call. So that's really important that we have that variable within here. And then we're also going to need the contact.yourmessage, which is essentially going to be this message within inside this form right here. So those are all the variables that we're going to be using within inside the JSON format. And of course, I will leave this JSON in the link in the description below with everything that I'm building. So now we can go ahead and test and establish this connection as well. All right, so we can go ahead and click run once. So now this make.com webhook is activated, and then we can go ahead and fill out this form. So you can just put looking to sell condo, apartment, we'll say no, looking to sell condo, right? That's going to obviously give a reason for the AI to use within inside its prompt and conversation, and then obviously name, email, and all of that. So Again, we'll go ahead and click send, and then we can see that make should receive this information. Perfect, boom. So right here, we've got the phone number, which is in raw format, the email, the name, and then also the reason as well. So now what we need to do is we need to create an outbound phone call. So we can just go ahead and use the module within inside Retail AI. And then we're going to need to do create a phone call. So create a new outbound phone call. And then obviously you're going to need a connection to Retail AI. So just go ahead and click add. And then you're going to need an API key. So I'll just quickly show you how to get that. So go back over to Retail AI. Again, making sure you're in the dashboard. Come over, click add key, API key. Give it a name, click create, and then come over to make and paste that information, paste that key into here, and then your account should be all good and connected. And then we're going to need a few other things to actually create this outbound phone call. So you're going to need a number that is connected and that is from Retail AI. Now, I won't get into too much detail on exactly how to create and connect the number, but Retail AI actually have an in-depth comprehensive doc on how to connect your Twilio account, which is a platform that allows us to buy online numbers, and connect it to Retail AI via SIP trunking. So if you do want to do that, go over to Twilio, buy a number, and then come back to this doc right here. And then you can also connect your number to Retail AI. So once you've done that, you'll then have a number to paste in right here. Again, I've already bought a number, so I'm going to go ahead and go back over to phone number, paste this in, and then paste it right there. So again, that's going to be the number, and then the to number, which is going to be the contacts or the client's number in this case, which is going to be that raw phone number that we need. So again, this needs to be an international country code format. As I'm in Australia, it's going to be +61. So we'll just put that in right there. And then the override agent ID, which is going to be the agent ID of the voice AI agent. So to actually do that, we're going to go ahead and click agents, create an agent. Again, this is what we're going to be doing. Single prompt agent, and then just start from blank right there. And then from there, that is going to be that agent ID up there. Again, we're going to name it because I'm going to come back to this dashboard right here. We'll just do real estate agent, and then we'll do outbound. And then just click save right there, and then copy that agent ID and then paste it in there. So now we have all the things to create that phone call. And then finally, we're going to need some other dynamic variables. Again, this is not really necessary, but I love to do this. So it gives the AI agent a more conversational and personalized conversation towards the customer. So we can see all we have to do is click add variables, and then it's going to need a key and a value. So I'm going to add 3 variables right now. So first, obviously, I'm going to do the name and then the value. Again, just dragging that information that we have from the webhook. Then I'll do email. So again, this is going to be feeded towards the AI phone call on each conversation to make it personalized for the person. And then we'll do reason. So again, the reason why they're reaching out. So again, the AI can actually use the reason that they're reaching out within inside its conversation. And I'll show you how that actually works within retail. So yeah, now this should be all good to go. So if we go ahead and come back over to retail, we're now going to need a prompt and then also a function to be able to, book in appraisal appointments and those things. So yeah, let's get into the prompt right now. We'll be pasting in a prompt that I've already pre-built because it would just take way too long for me to just write out this entire prompt. And of course, if you do want this prompt, it'll be completely for free using the free resources that I provide you in the link in the description. So the first thing of our prompt is going to be the role of the AI agent. So again, I love to start out with the role, letting the AI know its role and its task within inside the conversation. So you can see your role, you are Alex, a professional and friendly and efficient scheduling coordinator for, Pinnacle Reality. Again, just a made up real estate name in this demo. And then I've said your primary goal is to assist homeowners who have experienced interest in understanding their property's current market value. So again, using that form, for example, booking a free appraisal of your property, and then your tone should be warm, helpful, and professional. And then from there, we are going to need a few other variables, which is going to make the conversation more personalized. So you can see right here, I'm going to paste in some of these variables and quickly make sure that it's all good. So again, we've got the current time, which it is right now. So the current time that the AI agent was in. In this case, I'm in Australia, in Brisbane, so that's going to be my current time. And of course, if you're in US, you would just do like America, sorry, and then maybe put like LA or wherever you're from, right? So again, I'm going to be using Australia because that's where I'm from. But yeah, and then also down here we have the lead information. So this is really important. Again, this is how we're able to customize the conversation using these dynamic variables within Make right here. So we can see right here, because the key and the value is name, email, and reason, we are simply just able to put in those dynamic variables, again, using the curly brackets. So using those double curly brackets right there to then create a dynamic variable. So each time it's made an outbound call, it's going to be already populated with those leads information. We have the task of the AI agent. Now this section is going to be the longest task and the longest section of our prompt to let the AI agent know its task within the conversation and specifically how to handle it. So again, I'm just pasting in this prompt that I've already built because these prompts do take a fairly long time to make to customize the AI agent and customize the conversation. So again, right here, I've reinstated its primary task to contact leads who have inquired online, qualify them, and then schedule a free, no obligation property appraisal with one of our local agents. And I said you must follow these 5 steps in order. Again, I like to use a step-by-step process to guide the AI agent through the conversation. And then from there, I've said greet the lead by name, introduce yourself, as in this case, I'll put Alex. So you can just say greet the lead and introduce yourself as Alex from Pinnacle Reality right there. And then there, confirm the reason for your call, referencing the online inquiry. So we can see right here, I'm going to reference this online inquiry. So I've said hi dynamic variable, which is going to be their name. So when they've submitted this form right here, it's going to be the name that they've used. Sorry, wrong form. It's going to be the name that they've used within inside this form. Again, it's going to be using that dynamic variable. It's going to say, for example, hi, Ashton. In this case, my name is Alex, calling from Pinnacle Reality. I'm just following up on the request you made for our free property appraisal for your property, which is the reason. So we can go right here. I'm just following up on the request you made for our website, free appraisal for your property. And then we're going to need to customize it. And then we can quickly customize this conversation, again, using that dynamic variable. We can just say, hi, Ashton, in this case, my name is Alex, calling from Pinnacle Reality. I'm just following up on a request you made on our website, regarding, and then we can just put reasons. So now whenever, again, this is going to be the first message of the agent whenever the user speaks. So whatever information they put in here, it's then going to reference that within its conversation. So it's just acting like a human, as if they've just seen the information that's gone out on the form. And then from there, we're going to need to qualify the lead. Again, this is really useful with inside, an example like a real estate agency to qualify and make sure the customer is fit for their services. So again, just adding some prompt engineering, asking, are you the registered property owner? Are you considering selling property 6 to 12 months? And then has the property been appraised by another agent? And then from there, if it does adhere to that criteria, it's then going to move on to the check availability. And from there, if the lead qualifies, offer to book a complimentary appraisal, and then it's going to ask for their preferred day and time. And then from there, use the check availability tool. So this is going to be the first tool that we're using within inside this example, and I'll just show you how to create this tool right after this prompt. So again, using the check availability tool to find an open slot, and then you always must check times in the future. So making sure that it's referencing that dynamic variable, the time zone where it's currently at, which is in Australia and Brisbane, and always making sure that it's checking availability for the future. And then from there, if their preferred time is taken, use the check availability tool again. I like to use quotation marks in this example. To find the next available slot, suggesting a time on the same day and then the following day. Then you must successfully run this tool and get a confirmation of an available slot before moving to the next step. So again, making sure it's confirming that there is an available time, and then if there's not, it's going to use the tool again to then find the available slots. And then from there, it's going to be using the next step, which is booking the appraisal. So once a suitable time is agreed upon, confirm the details of the booking, confirm you have the full name, property address, and an email, and then verbally confirm it in a natural and easy to understand format. And then I've just given the AI an example in there. And then after they've run the book appraisal tool with the inputs, and then make sure they've confirmed the time. So yeah, that's all the steps. Again, 5 steps in that process on how to conduct the conversation. So the AI agent is going to be following these 5 steps every single time when conducting the conversation. From there, I'm just going to be adding in a context, so reinstating the context of the AI agent. So again, making sure the AI agent knows its context within the recording. Sorry, I'll just move my camera quickly so you can see the full prompt. So yeah, making sure the AI agent understands the context. So for example, we're just letting it know that it is calling leads that have requested, a free appraisal or property appraisal. I'll just put that in there. Appraisal. Let's say come. So yeah, then I've added the context. So I'm just letting the AI agent know the context within its speaking. So letting the AI agent know the context of the conversation. So I've just said again, this AI agent is designed to provide immediate and effective follow-up for online leads who have requested a property appraisal. By engaging potential clients quickly, the AI agent aims to convert interest into a scheduled in-person appointment. So again, letting the AI agent know its context. And then finally, one of the last things we have, which is an example conversation. So again, I've already built out this prompt. So yeah, an example conversation is really useful to let the AI agent know, one, how to follow the conversation in a real world example, 2, how to use tools within the conversation. So we can see right here, I've referenced, check availability tool, book appointment tool. So letting the AI agent know when to run the tool. And then finally, it's also really good for making sure the AI agent stays on track. So if someone just starts talking about random things, it's going to use this example conversation to stay on track in real time. So we can see right here, I've added, an example variable. Whenever someone calls, I've just said, hi, my name is Alex, reaching out from Pinnacle Property for your free property appraisal. So again, if we go back to here, we can just go ahead and paste this in. This is going to be the first message that it sends right here. And from there, yes, that's fine. And then making sure we have the tools right there, just making sure this is all good before we demo it. So yeah, should be all good to go. And then yeah, from there, one final last thing is the notes. So just simple notes of the AI agent. Again, I like to add this in to every voice AI agent that I use. So again, using everyday conversational language, keeping the responses short and natural, between 2 to 3 sentences max, and then using their name throughout the conversation as well. So yeah, this is going to be the complete prompt that we're using. Again, quite a comprehensive and detailed prompt just to make sure these AI agents are, performing at the top of their capabilities as well. So yeah, again, we're going to be using the user speaks first method. If you were to do user speaks, I speak first, you can actually customize your message. You can put name, so you can do like, hello, is this name? Actually, we'll do this, right? So just to show the power of, customizing the conversation. So now each time it calls, it's going to say, hello, is this name, right? And then they can say, yes, it is, right? So yeah, that's exactly how you can use dynamic variables, but yeah, we'll just use user speaks first. So whenever they speak, the AI agent is then going to speak after they speak, obviously. Yeah, and then from there, we're going to need the function. So again, this is the last part of the AI agent. Now that we've got the prompt, we do need the functions to be able to check availability within a calendar system and then also book an appointment. And then I'll go ahead and demo everything at the end to make sure it works. So again, adding a function in here. Again, you can do add a custom function. I have a video, on adding custom functions within retail on my channel as well. But for this demo, it's just showing the capabilities and purpose of calling leads via form and an automation. But again, I'll just be using cal.com. Perfectly shows how it can connect and connect to a calendar and check availability. So again, I'll add this tool right here, and it just really makes it really simple within retail AI to show the capabilities of a demo, to check availability and do all those sorts of things. So again, name is going to be check availability, making sure that name is the exact same within the prompt right here within retail. Description, again, when the user asks for availability, check availability on the calendar and provide the available slots. And then from here, we're going to need 3 other things. So we're going to need the API key from cal.com. And of course, in a real world scenario, we will be using the businesses and clients calendar system, but this is a perfect example to show how to create these outbound calls and connect them to a system like cal.com. So again, you're going to go ahead and go over to cal.com and then sign up or log in if you've already got an account. Again, cal.com is just a scheduling software that we can use to create appointments. So let's go over to cal.com. And then we can now create a new event type. So again, I've already got an event type scheduled in for this demo, which is named Free Property Appraisal. So we can go right here and yeah, we're in the booking right now. So of course, we're going to need the event ID. So I'll quickly show you what that looks like inside the URL. So yeah, the event ID is going to be this number right here that you need up the top in your browser. So the numbers following after that slash after the event types. Come back to Retail AI, put that in here. And they're also going to need an API key. And I'll just quickly change my time zone, which is going to be Australia/Brisbane. And then, yeah, we're going to need the API key as well. So, yeah, again, if we just go ahead and go over to settings, go to API keys, click add. I'll just do demo, test, save, copy, and then we'll go back over to retail and then just click paste right here, save. Right there, it's now going to be able to check availability. And then we'll do the exact same thing for booking an appointment. So again, really simple in this case, just using cal.com as the demo to book the appointment. Again, I'll paste in that API key that we just had. Come back over to our bookings, event type, sorry. Making sure we've got that number right there. Paste that in and changing it to slash. All right, sweet. And then just cutting out that right there to make sure that the name is the exact same as the prompt. All right, so that should be all good to go. We'll go ahead and click save, invalid time zone. Sorry, I've just added a space. That's why it said that. I've added a space after that. All right, now it should be all good to go ahead and check the appointment. So one last thing that I'm going to add is a knowledge base. So whenever someone asks any questions about in this case, it'll be pretty sure a buyer's agency in this case, or any information about the real estate company, we're going to need a knowledge base as well. So to do this, again, I've already got a knowledge base pre-configured, so I'll go ahead and add that in there. But then I'll show you how to add a knowledge base within Retail AI. So we can see if we just click add right here, we're going to need to add a document, and then we can upload the file. So upload whatever files you may need using that button right there, and then give it a name. And then, yeah, it should show up inside that section. And yeah, you should be able to add that knowledge base right there. So yeah, that's exactly how, you can create a voice AI agent to make those outbound calls via that simple make automation, and then go ahead and book in for an appointment. Let's go ahead and test this agent right now. And just to make sure that's working, I'm going to go ahead and suggest a slot at 11 a.m. for an appointment, and then we can see how it's going to work. So first of all, let's go all the way back over to here into make, and then I'm going to fill out that form, and it should be able to create that phone call. And then yeah, it should call my number right now. So again, making sure this is all configured, clicking publish, and then outbound phone number, and then selecting the agent right now. So I'm pretty sure I already got something connected to it. So we go back to phone numbers. So yeah, I'm gonna need to switch this around. So again, I'll put this over here. Again, making sure that agent is attached to that number within the section. Beautiful, right? Publish. So now it should be all good to go. and I'll go ahead and make sure this make automation is running to demo everything. And I'll send out my details right here, and then hopefully you can see everything. So with there, I'll say looking to sell my apartment. So yeah, as soon as we click send, that automation should work, create that outbound phone call, and then contact Retail AI, and then from there, it's able to schedule appointments. So let's go ahead and click send real quick. All right, sweet. So you can see, click send. That information should get sent to Ray. All right, and then it should be calling our phone any moment. Beautiful. So right there, making that outbound call super quick. So let's answer it. Hello.
Boss, my name's Alex from Pinnacle Realty. I'm just following up on the request you made on our website for a free appraisal for your apartment. Is now a good time to chat for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Actually, yeah.
Great, thanks, Ashton. Just to make sure we can help you out, are you the registered owner of the apartment?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Perfect, thanks for confirming. Are you thinking about selling your apartment in the next 6 to 12 months, or are you just curious about the current value?
Yeah, I am looking to sell. Actually, yeah.
Awesome, thanks for letting me know. Has your apartment been appraised by another agent in the last 3 months?
No, it hasn't. This is the first time.
Thanks, Ashton. It sounds like a complimentary appraisal is a great next step for you. Do you have a preferred day or time for one of our local agents to come by? It usually takes about 20
Sure.
minutes.
Do you have any availability tomorrow at 11 a.m.?
Let me quickly check if we have an agent available for you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Thanks for waiting, Ashton. It looks like our next available slot tomorrow is from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Would that work for you?
Could we actually do 2 p.m.?
Let me check if we have an agent available for you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Good news, Ashton. We do have an agent available tomorrow between 2 o'clock and 3 p.m. Would you like to lock in 2 p.m. for your free appraisal?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Great. Just to make sure I have everything right, could you please confirm the address of the apartment you'd like appraised? And is ashtonboss47@gmail.com still the best email for you?
Yeah, so the address will be 123 Main Drive, and yeah, that email is the best email, so yeah, just use that.
Perfect. I'm locking in your free appraisal at 123 Main Drive for tomorrow at 2 p.m. That's all booked in for you, Ashton. You'll get an email from us shortly with all the details. Our local agent...
So yeah, you can see right there that it just automatically went ahead, booked the appointment, it checked that available slot, which I've already pre-filled. It made sure it checked that availability, and then it came back with an available slot, and then I said, look, no, 2 p.m. works, actually, and then right there, it's got, my name, and then it's also got that address right there, and then the description within cal.com. So if we just go back over to cal.com, again, cal.com is connected to Google Calendar if you're wondering why I'm using Google Calendar, but we can see, go over to bookings, and then we can see right here, if we just refresh, you can see right here that free property appraisal has been scheduled at 2 p.m. So yeah. Okay, awesome. So now hopefully you've gone through both those tutorials covering an inbound and an outbound agent. Now we're actually going to be getting on to actually how to deploy these agents into real world scenarios. So we're going to be covering how to attach numbers specifically for retail agents as well. So again, this is only going to be for retail AI agents, as everything I've covered has been for retail AI. So we're going to be covering how to actually connect phone numbers to your agents so you can deploy them into real world scenarios. So I'll see you in that tutorial where we're going to be explaining what SIP trunking is, which is the method we use to connect these agents, how to do it, and everything in there. So I'll see you over there. Okay, and before we really actually, understand how to connect these numbers to Vappy and retail, we want to actually know how this SIP trunking process works and actually the process behind everything. So again, I'm just going to spend a few quick minutes explaining how this actually works, and then we'll dive straight into the tutorial. Again, if you do want to skip to a section part, where you actually want to know how to connect the number to either retail or Vappy, depending on what platform you want, you can go down to the chapters in the YouTube video and actually skip directly to the part where we show you how to connect the number to either retail or Vappy. But again, let's get straight into it. So again, this is essentially how the flow works when someone is making a phone call to our number all the way to our AI platform right here. So essentially, we have the user up here. Again, the user is making a phone call using their phone number to a phone number. And that phone number is stored in what we call a PSTN network, right? It's essentially this big network of all these phone numbers. It's this big advanced, old system, right? Using these little satellites right here. Again, that's how they make the connection around the world. And then from there, within that network, the user has called a number, right? And that number is associated to Twilio, right? Because this is the platform we're going to be using to buy that number from, right? And then from there, once Twilio receives that connection, they notice that that number is associated to our SIP trunk, right? And the SIP trunk essentially is the process of connecting this PSTN network to our AI platform, right? And for inbound, we use something called a SIP URI, which is essentially the connection to create an inbound connection to connect the user's phone number. And for outbound, we use something called a termination, right? So again, those are the two differentiating factors between an inbound call and an outbound call, right? So again, user's phone number calls our phone number. The phone number is associated with Twilio. And then from there, Twilio needs to send that phone number and send that data to our AI platform. And then from there, our AI platform will essentially conversate with the user. It'll do its normal process, and then it will come back through this, little connection, and it'll go all the way back to the user. So again, that's just a quick breakdown on how it works, right? And then with outbound calls, it's a little bit different, right? So again, our AI platform is going to be making an API request with the phone number that it needs to make an outbound call from our phone number. And then from there, it's essentially the same process, but it's reversed, right? So again, Twilio is using a SIP trunk to initiate a connection between our AI platform, right, and the PSTN network, which is essentially where that user's phone number is hosted. It goes straight to the user, and then from there, it'll conduct its normal process like here. So again, it'll contact the LLM, it'll make any, cool tools, it'll check availability, conversate with the user like it is on a voice AI platform. So again, that's just a quick breakdown on actually how this system works. And again, what we're going to be going deep into is actually this process right here. So again, using a number we have bought or ported in from Twilio and connecting it to the voice AI platform. In this case, it is retail and VAPI. So again, let's dive straight into the first tutorial, which is going to be on retail AI, and then we're going to go to VAPI. Again, if you are using either retail AI or VAPI, make sure to skip using the chapters below in YouTube. So again, let's get right into it. Okay, awesome. And the platform we're going to be using in this video is going to be Twilio. Now, again, the platform is pretty similar to a lot of the other providers such as Telnex, Klaviyo, I think, is another provider. But again, there's heaps of voice AI providers and heaps of phone number providers, that we can actually go ahead and buy a phone number. So there's two ways we can actually do that, right? We can either port a number, which is, again, porting in an existing number. Again, this can be very useful for businesses if you are building these voice AI solutions out, if they don't want to switch any numbers and if they just want to port their original number. So I will show you how to do that when we get to that stage. But the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a SIP trunk, right? So again, what you want to do is you want to come over to this search bar and just literally search SIP trunk right here, and then go down to Elastic SIP trunks. So before we actually go ahead and do this, I want you to open up this document or little docs right here, which is essentially going to be Retail AI's documentation, right? So essentially, the reason why we need this is because Retail AI is going to be providing us some information to make that connection from Twilio all the way to Retail AI. So make sure to go ahead and open up this document. I will leave the link to the document down below in the link in the description so you can go ahead and follow along, right? Once you have that up, come back to Twilio. And then what you want to do is you want to create a new SIP trunk, right? Give it a name, just do Twilio test or retail test, sorry. Retail test, click create. And then it's going to be put into this little dashboard right here. So we come back to the Twilio docs. Again, we're just going to be referring to this because we need to get some information from them, right? We need to set up a termination, right? This is going to be for those outbound calls, right? So come back to here, and then you want to go down to termination, right? And then what you want to do is you want to create a termination SIP URI. So again, this can really be anything. They said it can be any other name, but you will need this for later when we do make that connection to retail, right? Come down to SIP URI, and I'll just put in my name right here. Again, it doesn't really matter what it is. We'll see if this is available. So again, that's available. Perfect, right? So just make sure that your SIP URI is available, right? Now, if we come back to Twilio, these are some of the things that we're going to need to create. So we're going to need to create a new credential list, right? So come back to credential list, and I'm just going to name it my name, and then we'll just do password, and then we'll just do my name, which is just, so again, just go ahead and create a password. But the main thing that you need to do here is actually save this, right? All right, make sure you actually put in a password that meets their requirement limits. So again, I'm just going to create one right there, and boom, that'll work fine. Okay, let's go back to Twilio, and now we're going to need to create a new access controller. So this is where we're going to need these numbers right here, right? So let's come back to Twilio. Let's create an access control list, and then let's go ahead and name it default ACL1. Default ACL1, right? Again, it doesn't really matter what it is, right? If we come back, then we're going to need to put in that address, which is going to be 4 zeros, I believe. Yep, 4 zeros. And then we're going to need to put 1 right here. Okay, right? And then friendly name, it says that we don't need a friendly name, so let's go ahead and click create, right? Okay, and then let's do the same thing for this section, which is just going to be the same thing, right? Default ACL2, right? So again, perfect. And then the address is going to be 128,000. So 128. Awesome. And just making sure we get this done. So again, that's going to be our IP address range. And the same thing is essentially going to be 1 right here. So again, 1, and then create ACL, right? So now we have those 2 steps done, and now we need to set up an origination. So this is going to be for that outbound, for the inbound, right? So we have everything we need here. So again, just go ahead and click save right here. Awesome, we have successfully updated. Let's come down to origination. Okay, now we need to add a new origination URI. Come back to Twilio right here. Again, they make it, the documents right here. And then here you need to specify retail SIP address server, right? So again, put that in to here, SIP URI. And then let's make sure everything's the same. So again, 1010 enabled. That's all good. Let's go ahead and click add. All right, so now that you have that SIP URI, we should be all good to go. Now let's come down to numbers. And essentially, this is, again, really easy. We just need to import the number to Twilio. So again, if we come back here, this is where you're going to need to either add a number. So again, you can buy a number or add an existing number. I'm just quickly going to buy a number for the purpose of this video so we can actually see how we can use this later as well. So again, I'm going to buy a number, and then you can go down here, buy your number. Essentially, they've got heaps of different numbers right here. I'm just going to be using the US number. All right, so once you've either bought a number, again, now if you have bought a number, you can go down to add an existing number. Again, just wait for it to load. Right here, that's my number. So go ahead and do that and add selected, right? So that'll be put in there. And then from there, we just need to make the connection to retail. So again, it's going to be quite simple. Again, we've got that number right in there. So now what you want to do is you want to come over to retail right here. Again, I'll just load up another account so I can show you how to do it. We'll go to phone numbers, click plus up the top, and then we'll just do connect your number by SIP trunking. So again, that phone number is going to be the phone number that you have right here. So we can just go ahead and copy that, put it here, right? And then from there, that termination URI, right? That's going to be the same URI that we have. So again, it says look like XXP Twilio. So again, that's going to be the termination. Come back to termination. Let's copy this part. Come back here, right? And then come back here, and I'll just copy that username right there in front, right? So again, that's what the URI would look like. And then the username and password, this is going to be your username, and this is also going to be your password as well that you put in. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and put in. Right, awesome. So now you should be all good to go. Go ahead and click save. You can give it a nickname if you want. It doesn't really need to be happening. So go ahead and click save. And then right there, you will have your phone number all good to go. So now you can actually connect your agent, right? And you can make an outbound agent as well. And up here, we can actually go ahead and verify your identity to make outbound calls. But again, go ahead and click that. That's exactly how you actually import a number from Twilio to retail. Okay, and this is going to be the last section in this entire voice AI full course in masterclass, which is going to be taking you through how to monitor and scale your voice AI agents. So we're going to be taking a deep dive into the retail AI platform, how to monitor your agents, how to scale them, how to look at transcripts and all that type of stuff. So yeah, that's what we're going to be covering in this final section. So you can actually know how to monitor and scale your agents and look at any of the transcriptions to see if there's any errors. So again, I will see you in that next section. Okay, now we're going to be going through another very important section, which is monitoring and scaling your voice AI agents. So we're going to be diving deep into all of these little features inside Retail AI, how to actually look at your call history, how to monitor analytics, and what all these features mean. So let's get right into it. So first of all, right here, we have the call history section. Up the top, if you come to the top, this is where you can filter all of the different calls. So for example, you can filter based on date. This is very useful for when you're launching agents inside an agent account. Let's say you've gone ahead and launched it and you might only want to filter for a certain date range. This is where you can filter. So you can only see calls that are happening live. So that's a good use case for when we can use that right here. Then right here, this is where we can filter for the different types of agents. So again, you can come down, you can filter for all these agents, click on that agent, and it'll only show call logs for that agent. And all of these other features are very, very similar. You can just, justify the type. Is it an inbound agent? What is the user sentiment? Is it a negative sentiment? So again, this is just where you can filter based on all the types of calls that may be coming into the agent. And then from here, we can have a custom view. So again, we can only, this is essentially just adding in different columns or tables to the little, structure right here. So again, if we just do session ID, if we were to click session ID and click save, then it would actually eliminate that field right there. Then from here, we can add custom attributes. This will be very useful when we're exporting data into sheets or something like that. We can add in custom attributes and just click add right there. So now we're going to be going into a very important part into our voice agent, which is actually looking in depth about the call transcripts and seeing how to monitor them. So if we click into this call right here, you'll be, prompted with this little dashboard up here. So this right here is going to be the date of the call that's happening, the specific agent for that call with the LLM ID, the call ID, so the call ID for this exact call, the duration of the call, so how long it took, and then also the cost as well. So this is where you can see what different calls are happening, how much they're costing for the different types of agents. And then this right here will be a audio transcript of the call. So you can actually go ahead and press play and you'll be able to hear the conversation of the agent right there. Then you can also download it. So if you just go up the top, it'll be downloading right there and you can actually go ahead and download everything and all the call conversations. And then this is a conversation analysis. So Retail will automatically analyze each and every conversation to see the overall sentiment of it. So we have right here, call successful, if it is unsuccessful or successful, and that'll be basically determined by their post-call evaluation criteria. So again, a unsuccessful call might mean someone is hanging up or the agent wasn't successful in booking or something went wrong, right? And then from here, we have the call status. So what is the status right now? Is it, has someone ended? Has the agent ended? Has the user hanged up? What is the call status right now? So again, we want this to be ended most of the time because these will get logged in as soon as the agent calls. So you can have ongoing, you can have, all these different types of call statuses. Then we've got user sentiment. So again, this is the user sentiment. So the overall sentiment and the mood of the user. So is it a negative sentiment? Are they not happy? Or is it a positive sentiment as well? This will also mean, I'm pretty sure this means the user sentiment, and then also means based on like, is it a successful conversation or is it a non-successful conversation? I think that's what it means. I think I was getting it mixed up with another setting. And then disconnection reason. So user hang up or AI hang up right here. We can see all the different disconnection reasons. So these are everything right here. You can see in retail. That's just the reason of the disconnection. End-to-end latency. So this is the average latency between the conversation. So what was the average latency for when the agent spoke to when the user responded, right? So you can see these are all the broken down stats right here. You can see the medium and min, right? And then this is the summary. So this Retail AI will essentially provide a short summary of the call, right? So again, the user wanted to book an appointment at Close Biomedic. The agent Emily checked availability and offered a time instead of the requested time tomorrow, leading to some confusion to the user. So again, this is just a summary on the call. So that's all these sections right here. And then we have the transcription. So you can see this is the transcript of our AI agent. And when this is very important is you can see the tool call availabilities right here. So you can see what the tool call is, like what information it's putting through. For example, this can be very useful to see if the agent is getting any information wrong with when it's sending it to those webhooks, such as make an N8N. So this is where you can actually see that tool call ID and where it's sending it. Then from here, you can see the result. So again, the result of tool call ID right here, that's going to be the result. So that's what is very useful for this transcript, right? Is seeing all those tool calls and actually seeing what the agent is doing. And you can also get a full transcript as well. Right, and then if we come to the data, this is essentially any metadata or extracted dynamic variables within the conversation. And if we come to detail logs right here, this is just all the code and a little bit of background about the AI agent. For example, you can see, again, that's the call ID. So this is just all the stuff happening in the background. You don't really need to get too in depth into this. So if we come back up here, data. So yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a analysis on how to, structure the calls, right? So you can see the cost, you can see everything. Now let's go into the chat history. So again, chat history, this is just if you were deploying chat-based agents, essentially the exact same thing as call history, but it's just for chat-based agents, right? All right, now let's go into analytics. This is a very, very important section to actually see the overall analytical view of your agents. So let's dive into it. So this is going to be call counts. Of course, you can filter for different agents, like you can filter for all these different types of agents. Let's do, for example, this agent, and it would go ahead and save, and you can see all the different types of calls that has been happening for this agent. So we've got call counts, we've got call duration. So what is the average call duration of the agent? We've also got call latency. So what is the average latency for the agent? So this just puts everything in a dashboard that you can see. So you can either give this to your client, you can either edit this out, you can export it out. So this is something you can give to the client so they can actually see the analytics of their voice agent. And then right here, this is where we have the call successful analysis. This is probably the most important feature you need to do. So when you are launching your agent, you can come back into retail here and you can see if it's been mostly unsuccessful or successful. So you want this all the way up to successful. Of course, this is just a demo of the agent. So these things will be a little bit different into real world agents. But this is a very important feature right here to actually see how successful the agent has been in its conversation. We've got disconnect reason right here. So what is the reason for the disconnect? Again, this just compiles all the call history and puts it into one big dashboard. Right, and then we also have user sentiment. So what is the user sentiment of the user? Is it positive? Is it negative? What is the user sentiment, right? So again, I did get this mixed up previously. This just means was the user sentiment positive? So was the outcome of the call positive or was it negative, right? And then we have phone call, inbound, outbound. So again, this is a breakdown of if it is an inbound agent or an outbound agent, and that'll just break it down right there. Call pickup rate. This is a very, very, very good metric right here. Essentially, the whole reason why we have voice agents is because they can pick up 24/7. So you can see if the agent hasn't picked up for whatever reason in here. Again, this should be upwards of, pretty much 100% for all the agents. Call successful rate. So how successful was the call? This is just in a graph based on the different dates. Again, you can filter out all of these different things in retail. Call transfer rate. This will just give you a how successful the call transfer was, very much like the call successful rate. Voicemail rate, the same thing. Average call duration, the same thing. So again, these are just piled into all these different graphs right here, right? And you can also add all these different graphs as well and do all this type of stuff and customize it. Call successful and call picked up. So yeah, that's just essentially the overview of the analytical tab. Now, yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this section. And that's going to sum up the entire course for this Retail AI and Full Voice AI course. If you did enjoy this course, make sure to go down and drop a comment, like, and subscribe as well. I've also got a free resource hub, which essentially allows you to build, deploy, and scale voice agents completely for free. I've got tons of free resources and templates so you can get started with voice AI agents. But without further ado, I'll see you in the next one.